Here, okay. So we currently have a 6-1 quorum. We have no public comments for this meeting. So that moves us to item number 4, SLAA negotiations update. And I think we need to go into a closed meeting for this per Open Meetings Act 8C. Can I get a motion to move into closed session?
So moved by Dashner.
Support.
We got to remember, we do need to state the reason for going into it as part of the motion. That is part of the Open Meetings Act. So.
Isn't it for SLAA negotiations?
Yeah, but it needs to be part of the motion.
Oh, okay.
The purpose of.
Oh, Eric Kennedy just joined as well.
Okay, then I'll amend and say I move to enter a closed session under Open Meetings Act 8C to discuss SLAA negotiations update.
Perfect. I'll second that motion.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Clark. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
and Mr. Tell.
Yes.
Okay, we have 7-0, motion passes. We are moving over to our closed session now. Back. With that, we are on to public comments. I don't currently have any public comments for this meeting. Let me just verify that still. Correct? Okay. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll support.
Moved by Ms. Ertel, supported by Mr. Dashner for adjourn. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Sure. I vote yes, Mrs. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Tell,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned. I would like to call the Southline Community Schools Board of Education meeting on June 1st, 2020 at 7 p.m. to order. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, I am here. Ms. Hanshaw,
Here.
Mr. Dashner,
Here.
Mr. Schwegler,
Here.
Mr. Kennedy,
Here.
Mr. Tell,
Here.
and Mr. Clark.
Here.
That is all 7 of us. We have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
To
to the flag
of the
of
United
the United States of America,
and
to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are now on to item 3, which is public comments. We currently have, I think, 66 public comments. So we are going to ask that those of you that are calling in to make your own comment, please keep it to 3 minutes. If your comment has already been stated, you're welcome to say that as well. With that, I'm going to start with the first person. Courtney Arnold chose not to call in person, so I will read her statement. And she says, I would like to urge the board to reconsider financial cuts from arts programs, specifically the band programs. Children need that outlet for creativity, and I've seen firsthand how dedicated South Lyon band students are. They deserve better. Our second comment is from someone that is anonymous, and that person also is supporting the band. Our next comment is from Matt and Kristen Abbott, and they state, budget cuts to band program. It is not fair to make cuts to the arts and not other programs. This is not the student's fault. This needs to be a shared cut across all school programs. Without the art programs, some students will have no activities to perform in. Please reconsider. Thank you. Next is Michael Hammond. He also would like his statement read. Band program proposed cuts. SLBPA band boosters already covers a large amount that other schools fund, such as instrument equipment, etc. It will be difficult to find raise at a higher level. There are a number of SLHS and SLE grads studying music performance and music education, despite the lack of funding by the school district. Please consider increasing pay-to-play fees for the marching band if needed, but give the kids the opportunity to become musicians. Okay, our next public comment is from Mr. Kevin Court, and he would like to speak for himself regarding the proposed budget. Mr. Court, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. You're up.
All right, good evening. My name is Kevin Court. I've been a Southline community member most of my life, and I'm a parent of a Southline student. I'm also the director of bands at Southline High School, as well as the beginning band teacher at Centennial Middle School. Tonight, the board will be presented with a recommended budget, which estimates an estimated loss in state funding that results in massive cuts to Southline's budget. While these cuts are difficult to make, and I cannot begin to understand how difficult it must be, this proposed budget should not be the answer. The recommended budget calls for cuts of the auditorium manager, who oversees both high school auditoriums, the music coordinators at both Southline High School and Southline East High School, and an additional cut of marching band staff for each high school. While these cuts seem to affect a relatively small number of students, the quality of what is being offered to them is going to drastically decrease. Marching bands depend on support staff in order to function, let alone be competitive on a state level, which would end a 20-year competitive marching band streak at Southline High School. Furthermore, marching bands can function in a COVID world just like any other athletic team that would likely return this fall. Our programs rely on the support of our music coordinator, which helps to manage communication, paperwork, and many other factors of our 2 curricular bands, 4 curricular choirs, and multiple extracurricular ensembles and groups at each high school. And our auditorium manager establishes the performing arts schedule across the entire district, as well as provides our community with high-quality performance spaces for not only the arts, but honors nights, NHS inductions, and many other events for our school and community. While these cuts are difficult on their own, the arts, and especially our high school bands, seem to be the only extracurricular programs that are facing proposed cuts. In my reading of the budget, there are no proposed cuts to other Schedule C clubs, activities, groups, or athletics. Additionally, these cuts are being proposed without consultation with the programs they affect. None of the music staff was contacted to discuss the implications of these cuts. Budget cuts are hard, but this appears to be targeted and highly inequitable. I strongly urge the board to reject this budget and find a more equitable solution. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Court. Our next comment is from Sarah Morales, and she states, budget cuts affecting the school's music program. Music education is critical for the emotional and cognitive development of a large number of children, and it actually is a benefit to everyone. While I understand that this is a difficult time and cuts need to be made somewhere, I am hoping that the arts do not bear the brunt of these cuts. Both of my children went through music programs at Southline Community Schools, and those programs and the faculty have helped them develop social skills and critical thinking, as well as musical ability. These programs are really invaluable. Our next comment is from Carmen Bowman, and she states, why would you lay off / cut people and give all administration a raise? And next comment. Oh, I think it's the same one. Sorry. Okay. I am disturbed by the information in the budget proposal that makes significant cuts to the music program at East and eliminates the assistant position entirely. Laura Hogan is indispensable to the music program, and it will cause significant hardship to the students and directors if her position is eliminated. I see no equal or similar cuts for any other of the athletic department programs. The marching band has performed and placed every year at state finals and sets a positive example for our school district. They were personally invited by our district representatives to perform for the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C. this year. It is Sorry, the field's not big enough. Okay, I don't know what happened to that one. Sorry, the file got broken. Okay, this next one also doesn't have a name. Proposed budget cuts to the band program and the elimination of the department coordinator position. While we understand the economic damage that has resulted from the current pandemic and the budget cuts to education that will trickle down from the state, we find it unfair for the arts programs to bear the brunt of the cuts at the high school level, with virtually no impact on athletics or similar programs. If budget cuts are necessary, they should be made in a fair and equitable manner to the high school programs so as to not affect and disadvantage only a certain group of students. The coordinator position of the music department acts in the same capacity as the athletic secretary, and although the music program is smaller, the coordinator is working for two programs, both band and choir, in a manner that neither teacher would be able to absorb as part of their job. We are all familiar with the importance of the arts and the foundation of education. These proposed cuts are a slap in the face to the department. Let's put the outdated jocks versus band geeks situation firmly to bed and be better than that by making sure that any necessary cuts are made in an equitable manner across the high school programs available to students. Thank you. Okay, the next comment is made by Christine Kezkowski, and she states she's a parent and band lover, and that she was speaking against the budget cuts to school bands. Charles Plater wanted to speak on the Southline High School band budget. And next up is Amy Ponsock. Amy, are you there? Ms. Ponsock? She was also going to speak on proposed budget cuts to staff. Okay, Amy, we'll come back to you if you would like to join the meeting.
Hello?
Oh, yes. Hello, Ms. Ponsock.
Hello. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Amy Ponsock. I'm speaking to you about the proposed budget cuts at hand. I understand this is an unprecedented time, and so many hardships have been created from this pandemic. However, I feel, though, as I need to speak out. I understand budget cuts are necessary, but when I heard of the proposed cuts to the SLHS band program, my heart sank. The band already struggles financially, even when things are supposedly going well. Believe it or not, my son played a school supplied instrument, a bari sax at that, which was at one time held together by duct tape. Embarrassing in my opinion when he plays that instrument during an honors band concert with other Oakland County high school peers. Thank you to Mr. Court for figuring out how to remedy that with a new bari sax the following year. A large amount of fundraising happens within the band program, so we've learned just to deal with it. Anyway, I took a quick look at the proposed budget for next year, and I was shocked to see that the athletic budget actually increased $66,972. While not a large increase, it is certainly not a cut. I may not be a financial expert, but this doesn't seem like an equal cut across the board. Performing arts is very much an important part of high school, as is athletics. With the proposed cuts to staff and techs, think of them as coaches, this would devastate this group and extremely limit or possibly even prevent the marching band program and other programmed activities for band and choir to function. Please review carefully and reconsider, if necessary, the allocation of funds to be equally distributed among all extracurricular activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ponsock. Next up is Julianne Sleek, who would also like to speak about the budget cuts for the band program. Ms. Sleek, are you there? We'll give you a minute to unmute, hopefully. Miss Sleek, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're talking yet.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, yes.
Good evening, board members. My name is Julianne Sleek, and I am a parent to 2 children in the South Lyon School District. My oldest son is a member of the South Lyon East Concert and Marching Band. I would like to take a moment to speak out on a few of the proposed budget cuts that are outlined on page 60 of the 2020-2021 recommended budget. Between both high schools, you are outlining a total of $60,000 be cut from our band programs. Please take a moment to consider that you are cutting arts from our children's high school career. I don't think that I need to explain how many studies have been done about the importance of art in education. This seems highly disproportionate. If you are considering cuts to the part of band that is extracurricular, then why are you not cutting from all extracurricular activities, including athletics? For the 2019-2020 school year, our band director, Mr. Matt Smith, was given the honor of becoming the Teacher of the Year at East. I think that should speak for itself and what a wonderful educator he is. What a slap in the face to our music educators in this district who work their tails off to support our kids. And what a disheartening thing to do to our kids in the middle of this pandemic. Haven't these teens suffered enough? I can't tell you how much my child is looking forward to being back with his friends for the upcoming marching band season. I understand that cuts need to be made, but please consider making changes that will not affect 2 entire programs and the lives of countless high schoolers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leek. Next is Miss Emily Mendez. Would also like to speak about the band program or the music programs. Oh, Emmy Mendez. Miss Mendez, are you online? Okay, we will come back to Miss Mendez. Next up was Miss Marge Smith. Would also like to discuss funding for choir. Miss Smith, are you online? Please make sure you unmute yourself for public comment. Okay, let's move on to next is Miss Barbara Lund. We'd like to also speak about band funding.
Hi, my name is Barbara Lund, and I'm calling to talk about the band cuts in the budget this year. And both of my kids have gone through the band program and both been in marching band. And each year we have to fight to you know, a lot of people say that it's not the same as athletics, but they put in so much work in the marching band and all the hours and, you know, just the amount of time and, you know, even it's so much, sometimes more than a sport. But anyway, I would hope that we could, I know that this is a really difficult time, but I would hope that we can make a cut, not just to the arts, but to make it equal and, you know, and not make it just for the band program and the choir. And like a lot of people have talked about, the coordinator position that takes care of both band and choir, it's absolutely necessary, and we couldn't do it without those coordinators in both high schools. Also, you know, through the years, we've fought to get funding for the band program. We put a lot of work into bingo and other things, but each year we've had to, I'm not sure how many years we've had the same uniforms, but, you know, each year we just keep making alterations to the uniforms and other things. And even at the senior night this year, you know, we got only a couple minutes to go out on the field with our students, and it was a last minute thing. And, you know, it really needs to be more fair and equitable, and we shouldn't have to fight for these things each year. And like a lot of people were talking earlier, you know, it made my heart sink when I saw this, and I just really think that you guys should reconsider. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss Marge Smith, are you online? What about Emmy Mendez? Okay, we will go on then. Next up is Miss Jennifer Stagel. Would also like to talk about cuts to the music program. Miss Stagel, are you online? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Hear me, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and I wrote something so I don't lose track. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I respectfully request that you consider what budget cutbacks to both music departments can and will mean to the students. Did you know that students who participate in music, whether playing an instrument or singing, typically score higher in mathematics? The music department provides a creative outlet for students who may not be interested in athletics. My daughter personally was a student athlete as well as a member of choir. Let's see. I know that we are looking at budget cutbacks due to COVID-19. However, as an instructor in higher education, we are able to apply for grants to help fund our academics. As for the students, the loss of Mrs. Hogan and Mrs. Agnew, both from East and South Lyon, they need Mrs. Agnew and Mrs. Hogan. As you know, or Carrie might know, I also sub in the district, and I hear the kids talk. Yes, they love their teachers, but more than one student has told me that if it wasn't for Mrs. Hogan, she didn't know how she would make her senior year. A student who is thankfully in the Marines now said it was because of Mrs. Hogan. If we cut our music coordinators out, what will the students who don't have someone, who will they go to? My daughter just texted me and she said, make sure the school board knows that she is always there for us. Make sure the school board knows, sorry, I'm also reading the text here, that she has made it clear that Mrs. Hogan will always make herself available to us. Our kids are getting rocked because of COVID-19. They have lost almost everything. Our seniors have lost their senior year. They don't know if they'll be able to walk at graduation or if it will have to be virtual. Our kids in band don't know if they'll be able to participate in marching band, and the kids in choir don't know if they'll be able to sing. For our athletes, my daughter included, there's not a lot that they can participate in because athletics takes so much of their after-school time. My daughter was a student athlete and she works, but they are able to participate in the music program. Athletics cannot hold being in choir or being in band against them. I implore you to reconsider the cuts to the music departments. Allow us to at least keep our music coordinators, and let's not take another thing away from our students. That's all I have, Mrs. Hanshaw.
Thank you. Our next comment is Miss Denise Orthberg. She would like to speak about the program cuts to the South Lyon High School bands. Miss Orthberg, are you on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanshaw. I know that cuts have to happen tonight, but tonight I urge the board to be fair and equitable in those cuts. Please don't let the arts take a hit. The South Lyon High School Band Program does fundraising year-round as it is. Their primary fundraiser, a bingo program, accounts for 75% of their fundraising. That program has been canceled since March because of COVID-19, causing a $2,000 loss every month, and we don't know when that program will be able to resume. The band program is already underfunded and will not be able to sustain major cuts from the school budget. I have 2 children at South Lyon High School. One participates in 2 athletic programs. We pay a $180 athletic fee for each program, and that's it. $360 total. My other child also participates in 2 activities, marching band and SLP. For her activity participation, we pay a $50 activity fee, but because the program is already underfunded, we also pay $450 for her to participate in the competitive marching band program and $300 for her to participate in the South Lyon percussion program. Both band programs consistently rank in the top 10 in the state. Again, I know cuts have to be made, but please look long and hard at the cuts you propose and make sure they are fair and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Jack Swartzinski. He would also like to speak about the South Lyon East Band. He is a South Lyon East Band alumni, and he would like to discuss the music department funding. Mr. Swartzinski, are you on the line? Oh, yep, thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. 11 years ago, I spoke in front of this board for the first time. I was 11 years old and addressing an issue that had been plaguing school districts all over the state and almost all over the country during the Great Recession. That was whether or not to close school downs, and if so, which ones. That night, the school board, in the midst of deciding whether, fortunately, we had Dr. Pearson as our superintendent, and he guided this district so that no school in South Lyon would close down. And he even took a pay cut. I'm come now before this board to advocate that it reconsider the proposal to cut a combined $60,000 from our band and choir programs and refrain from cutting essential staff. I spent 4 years at South Lyon East High School's marching band playing mellophone and French horn and serving as a section leader and wind sergeant. My 2 younger brothers also participated in the marching band during their time at East. I know the impact that marching band has on students. It has made me learn what it takes to really dedicate yourself to learning a craft and how important discipline is to any work that you do. The lessons I've learned have carried me well into my position today, where I'm currently an honor student at Eastern Michigan University and hold multiple leadership roles in mock trial and moot court, as well as student government, where I'm currently running as a candidate for student body president. Without the friendships and professional work-based skills that I learned in marching band, I would not be experiencing the success I have today. And that is why I'm taking a break from my rigorous studying for the LSAT to tell you this. It's not just me. The success of this program has been experienced by now thousands of students who have participated in our marching band programs. And our marching band programs have gone successfully to state championship at Ford Field continuously and ranking in the top 10. When South Lyon East went for the first time competitively, it was my junior year, we ranked, I believe it was 8th that year, which was completely unheard of. And this activity encourages students to participate in other programs, such as our concert bands, our small ensembles, jazz band, pit orchestra, and our winter programs. And music students have shown to do better academically on average than their non-music colleagues and are amongst the most well-behaved students. And this is why I'm in shock that marching band students alone are facing these cuts. Rather than spreading the burden equally or proportionally amongst different extracurricular programs, you have chosen to single out our music programs. There's no real leadership in this, and this is really cheating these students. Without these staff members, there's simply going to be no marching band. That's it. The success that has been built over so many years and the legacies that have been built will be completely lost. You haven't even carried your load and taken any sort of pay cut. Churchill once said, at the height of the war on Britain in regards in the defense of the arts, none shall go. He understood their value, and I'm uncertain if you do.
All right, thank you. Next up is Mr. Sean Kempsky, and he has asked me to read his comment. Band kids don't vape on the bus. Band kids represent their school. Band kids don't discriminate. Band kids include. Band kids don't disappoint. Band kids make it to states. Don't cut the budget or the school's gonna lose the one of the only things they can actually show some fight. Next is Miss Brenda Grayson, and she is the parent and grandparent of some students, and she wants to speak about cutting the band program. Next up is Carrie Quattro. She states, please keep funding the music programs for South Lyon High School and South Lyon Community Schools, as those programs are extremely important for children for social activity and maintaining camaraderie in the schools. People like Beth Agney and the people who support the programs provide a voice and meaningful activities for children who do not participate in sports and athletic activities. These programs provide the cornerstone for music and theater, and it would be a shame to not have these programs in existence for the children of our community. Next up is Elise Kirkwood, and she's oh, I missed one, hold on. Next up is Carter Sleek. Mr. Sleek, are you on there? Yep.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Carter Sleek, and I am a student at South Lyon East High School, and I'm here speaking against the proposal of the cut of $60,000 from the band program. This will negatively affect the class, and most importantly, render marching band impossible to have as a program. Without the texts that guide us in our season, we would be lost and unable to possibly succeed. We would be giving up our chance to ever go to states again. I personally disliked marching band upon entry, but I've grown to love and miss it. With the cut to the budget, that would prevent me and all my other friends from participating in the activity we enjoy so much. It would rob us of a large piece of happiness from all of our lives, and it would be similar to removing football from all those that participate in the sport. We were supposed to represent our state in the Memorial Day parade, but that sadly was canceled due to COVID-19. With our band being a representation for the entire state, would it be a good idea to practically cut the program altogether? I ask of you, as the adults that make these decisions, to stop these cuts to the band program. It would harm not only me, but also everyone in the program as well.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Elise Kirkwood, and she's a concerned student, and she says, please do not take away that money from the band kids. I know so many people who love and cherish the band. It's an important part of their life, and it would cripple the band if you take that away from them. Do not be those people, please. All right, next is Jen Paulin. And she states, the cutting of $60,000 for the upcoming band program, whereas no other arts or sports programs are being cut. If you're going to cut $60,000, it needs to be universal and spread out evenly. Absolutely unfair, unjustifiable, and you cannot hurt these kids. Absolutely asinine if this is the only program being cut. Band and the marching band program means the world to some of these kids. To cut them short of these funds would be devastating. Miss Angela No states, please keep the special program like choir in our schools. Alexis Harrison states, the band program does not deserve to take an entire cut after all the fundraising they need to do just to manage already. Band is expensive. There are so many costs to cover. To name a few, instrument replacements, rental instruments, bus fares, to and from the competitions, food to feed the band, etc. The South Lyon Band program is really special, and the students are able to bond like their family. Don't take the joys of being in band away by bringing in the stresses of needing to fundraise in order to keep the band running. Andrew Liskey would just like to support the band. Rory Wyman. I think he would like to speak on the band cuts as well.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
I'm a student at Southline East, and I participate in 3 activities: marching band, cross country, soccer. And I think it's unfair that only one of these activities is getting most of the budget cut. It is my opinion that the recommended budget as presented has some major flaws and should not be approved without making changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Derek Portillo, and he states giving money away from band to sports teams, potentially taking away jobs from members of the band board. Tammy Wyman, would you like to speak on this issue?
Yes. This is
Perfect, thank you.
Tammy Wyman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is Tammy Wyman.
Miss Wyman, we can hear you. We could hear you for a moment. I think you have to unmute yourself again. Miss Wyman, we can't hear you. Okay, I guess we'll give her another minute to sort that out. In the meantime, do we have Miss Leslie Taylor?
Hi, this is Leslie Taylor. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. You're up.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everything that's been said here today. I just wanted to bring up that music is considered a second language by the South Lyon curriculum. And these 2 positions for the band and music coordinator is an essential position that's being considered for this budget cut. I am part of the South Lyon East Choir Boosters, and our band and choir coordinator is essential to our program. We could not function without her. She manages every single communication that goes out to all these students and parents and helps these teachers and coordinators every single day. She manages our website, every single trip and every single event that's prepared for these students and every single fundraiser, the day-to-day activities. She works hand in hand with every single member of our boosters, including the very essential treasurer for our treasurer report. We just simply can't imagine functioning without this position. And we just wanted. I also can say, whenever we're preparing documents, she's familiar with every single document prepared on our Google Drive, everything that's coming in, everything that's going out. She's just the backbone of the program, and this would be a detriment to our students to see this position get cut. And again, along the lines of what these other folks are saying, this program, to see this get cut in the district and not be equitable across all of the programs in the school, it is just heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Tammy Wyman, were you able to unmute your phone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can. Thank you.
We have a great band program because the director can focus his attention on the musical education as the musical coordinator covers the logistics. As parents, we purchase our students musical instruments. We pay maintenance costs. We pay for private lessons. We pay the school fees for extracurricular activities. The boosters are continuously fundraising to supplement costs that are not covered by the school district. We uniform our band students. We pay entrance fees for festivals and competitions. We use our own vehicles to transport the instruments and equipment across the state for competition. We are loading and unloading and reloading the trailer with voluntary manpower. Our involvement in the band program starts in middle school. It's a huge investment in time and money for our band families. It does not seem fair that the one extracurricular activity for band students is used to absorb half the budget cuts at the school. There should be equal sharing of these costs with other extracurricular activities that are supported by our school. It is my opinion that the recommended budget as presented has some major flaws and should not be approved without making changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Ms. Shay Harrison. And she states, deducting $30,000 from both South Lyon schools. This is honestly so disgusting to me that you take away $30,000 to the education to teaching music. We have a passion that we want to share and connect on, but South Lyon is making it very hard for us students, teachers, parents, etc. in the band community. We work very hard doing what we love. We have already done enough fundraising and enough stress due to money in the band community has already been put on us. Band is very expensive, such as instrument repairs to buying instruments. If you want an expanding band, why must you not fund the arts? What more does the athletic department need that we don't? I feel very passionate and outraged how you only take from the band program. This is a slap in the face to the band program, and I feel deeply about the band. It's my love. Don't you want your students to do what they love and passion, yet you decide to take away so students love it, as they will be very hard to afford. The marching bands and class bands, as well as any band program, feel deeply about this. It just shows the type of school community as you take from the band's arts and give to the athletics, especially during the pandemic. We already had enough in major losses. Please reconsider too and think about all the right people this is impacting. Not to mention how much band has helped me during rough times. This is very inconsiderate and putting unneeded stress on the students. Next is Miss Joanne Whitney. And she states, the proposed budget cuts to the already grossly underfunded high school band programs are ridiculous. These students work incredibly hard all year to learn and grow. They put in countless hours of time rehearsing, competing, performing. The directors and the support staff work tirelessly to educate and support our students. Arts are an integral part of a well-rounded education. Such a drastic reduction of funding at the end of a pandemic that has already had significant negative impacts on our students is simply not fair. There are certainly other programs that could stand these budget cuts. Next up is Tislan Harvey. And alternative support for funding music program. Can we hold an additional fundraising campaign for this year? Ms. Sophie Young states, the movement of funds from the band program to athletics. Next up is Victoria Taylor. I think she would also like to speak about the South Lyon East Choir.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Tori Taylor. I'm the president of the Choir Council at South Lyon East in the 2019-2020 school year, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the choir program and why we believe Ms. Hogan and her position have been an essential asset to the music program. Laura Hogan has worked in this position for years on end, and her hard work has allowed the band and choir programs to be as successful as they are now. And seeing the future of the music department not having her or this position seems incomprehensible. One of her main duties is to be in charge of the financials. She collects money from the students when fees are due and organizes them, ensuring the students get the experience that they're paying for. And in other terms of money, she helps run the organization with money fundraisers so the band and choir students can attend trips, festivals, banquets, so on and so forth. And now speaking for the choir council, she has made it possible for us to focus on the happiness and enjoyment of our students, whether they're current students or incoming, while she does all the grunt work in the background and allows us to do its best for the well-being of our program.
But if we were to consider the idea of a position being non-existent, it would leave our 3 music teachers, whose hands are already full, working on finding good music for their students, being a role model, or even just grading papers, but now they have to add another thing onto their list of to-dos. And it would also leave a lot of the organizing to the choir council, which is a group of students, which is led by students, who already do so much for their choir on top of being a normal student and the workload that comes with it. And as for the band, they have no group or council to run or organize any of the events, which leaves Mr. Smith to put together everything on his own. Despite her duties and accomplishments in this position, she has been supportive to every member of the music department, as well as being incredibly involved in both halves of the department. She also keeps her parents involved by sending out newsletters, which not only keeps the parents and families up to date, but also encourages the parents to get involved, which keeps a further successful program. The things that I've presented today were thoughts and evidence put together by 4 of our dedicated choir members, including myself and an alumni. We are very aware of the hard work and effort that goes into this position, and we know we would be nowhere without her. And we really think the budget cuts are not acceptable for us to proceed to be as successful as both the choir and band are today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Mia Abbott states, as an alum to the Southline High School band program, the proposed cut to the band program is absolutely heartbreaking. Being a part of the band program has given me a place to grow and become a better person. I was able to develop communication skills and leadership skills I couldn't have learned anywhere else. Being a nervous and anxious freshman, band gave me the opportunity to start friendships before school even started and allowed for a much smoother transition from middle school to high school. I even went on to join my college marching band in hopes of finding these same things. Cutting a huge part of the budget puts the band program at risk of becoming obsolete. This would take away those experiences and valuable lessons from incoming freshmen. This could even take away the safe haven this program creates from the upperclassmen. I understand keeping the entirety of the band's budget is not realistic. However, I urge the board to consider cutting the budget of other athletics or clubs in hopes of not completely letting one become non-existent. Only targeting the band program is an insult to the many students who find comfort in this program, and along with the faculty who dedicate their lives to teaching and spreading the joy of music. Thank you. Ms. Karen Delbane also would like to speak regarding the music department cuts. Aiden Parks would like to state, I wanted to speak about the cuts that would be made to the band programs at each of the high schools. Simply put, marching band is hugely a team-based activity, and no one of us could succeed without all the others behind us. Without the hard work from our staff to guide us, each of these marching programs would simply be unable to function. Smaller cuts to all programs would allow all groups to continue to function, if not with all the bells and whistles they are accustomed to, and not have such a drastic influence on our program as a whole. Next up is Mr. Joshua McCallum, who would like to speak about classroom size, and he represents teachers. Mr. McCallum, are you on the line? Okay, I do not see him right now, so we will come back to Mr. McCallum. Next up is Parker Kennedy, and they state, I understand that we are in a bit of a budget crisis due to COVID-19, but please don't take away money from the music programs. Band and choir are already lower on the budget scale than most other extracurricular activities, and taking away more money will only hurt them more. For example, sports get a ton of money, and I always get way more recognition than the other extracurriculars. In theater, we have a joke about it because of how much more recognition that the sports programs get than the drama department. By taking away funding from the programs, it will essentially cripple the marching band programs and take away the band choir coordinators. I personally come from Southline High School, and I know that the choir and band program would not function even half as well as they do without Miss Agnew. Mrs. Agnew is the glue that holds the whole program together. She helps organize concerts, field trips, the joint choir and band trips, knows literally everything there is to know about the choir and band programs, and is Mr. H and Mr. Court's right-hand lady. Please don't take her away, and please don't make the future for the choir and band programs less bright. Next up is Miss Robin Wyman, and she wanted to discuss the Southline East band programming budget.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, I'm a student in Southline East Band program playing clarinet in Southline East Symphonic Band and the drum major of Southline East's marching band. Our musical coordinator, Mrs. Hogan, is a vital part of our band program. She's not only necessary in managing our communications, but she also educates and leads several small musical ensembles. By eliminating our musical coordinator position, we won't only lack necessary support staff, but also a respected educator. Band is a vital part of my life. It is my family. The leadership I have learned is priceless, and I will lose the opportunity of more growth with these proposed cuts. It is my belief that the recommended budget as presented has some major flaws and should not be approved without making changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Leah Delbane. And she states, should the proposed $30,000 in funding be cut from the high school's band and choir programs, multiple techs, organizers, etc., will no longer be allowed to help the programs run smoothly. The band program especially leans on people such as Mrs. Hogan, who works tirelessly to keep track of events, keep students and parents up to date on all necessary information, and so much more. The funding for these programs is already extremely limited, and further cuts will likely destroy the well-being and functionality of the groups. There are over 100 students involved in the band and choir programs, and here they have flourished, establishing and improving their artistic talents to the fullest. It is without a doubt that these students, as well as their parents and staff, are strongly committed to these organizations, and we can't risk taking something so incredibly sacred and successful away from them. I therefore ask that such budget cuts are reconsidered, or at the very least lessened, for the sake of the staff and students whose lives have been positively changed by band and choir programs. Ms. Janice Stancato states, finance cuts to the high school band program. I think this cut is so unfortunate and unfair. Cuts should be made across the board to all programs, lessening the impact to any specific area. The musical arts is a great opportunity for the kids. Many students have gone on to great musical careers in college and as a profession. Please reconsider this specific finance cut and spread it out to all groups. Ms. Robin Swank states, I have recently heard that there will be huge cuts to the band program at both high schools. Will there also be similar cuts to athletics? The band program has been a wonderful experience for both my kids. They are involved in many of the extracurricular band programs available and have enjoyed all of it. They have made so many friends in all different grades. The leadership team has helped them grow in so many ways. It would be a shame to see the programs be cut. Please consider making smaller cuts to many different programs so that all students can continue to enjoy with the activities they enjoy. Ms. Sable Dobby, are you available to speak? Ms. Dobby, if you are available to speak, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, we will come back. How about Miss Lisa Bartazek? She would like to speak on the cuts to the music program at South Lyon High School. Miss Bartazek. Okay, I don't see her number listed, so hopefully she will join us. Next up was Nicholas Collinsworth, and they are a parent at East. I'm a South Lyon East band parent. I'd like to say that cuts to the band department would be a disservice to our kids, the staff who work tirelessly with already limited resources, and the community. Our children work hard all year round. Many have aspirations of continuing on into their college years, obtaining scholarships, and some have goals of performing with our armed forces. None of this is possible without the expert guidance of our amazing staff. How is this fair? Will athletics be cut? If not, what makes their divisions more important? Thank you. Next up is Miss Lynn Hensley, and she states, As the parent of a choir student and a teacher at South Lyon High School, I am saddened by the proposed budget cuts to the band choir program. These students work hard, hold fundraisers, and have obligations outside of the school day for their class. They support the athletics at their games, but receive little support in return. For some students, band or choir is the reason they come to school. The band or choir coordinators are an essential position in order for the bands and choirs to run smoothly, and the work they do allows the directors to focus on instruction of their students. I would ask the board members to carefully consider asking for other options for saving money that don't impact an important and necessary program for our students. Kathleen and Michael Sleek would also like to talk about the South Lyon Marching Band. And Chris Kempsky would like to state, I just heard about some substantial budget cuts proposed in the music programs at the high schools. While I have not had time to review the entire proposed budget, I want to voice my support for the music programs. They played an important role in my recent graduate's success, and I hope my younger children have similar opportunities. And next up is Miss Mary McGinnis, and she would like to speak. Miss Mary McGinnis, if you are there, you are up. You need to unmute yourself. Okay, I do not see her number listed, so hopefully she will join us. Next up are Scott and Kara Ronkowski. And their statement is, we strongly urge the board to reject the budget as proposed in order to reconsider several areas which are out of line with our current reality. First of all, a reduction of 65% to the allotment of paper soap liners, line item 00765990, and a 58% reduction to the allotment of chemicals custodial supply line item 00765997 is simply unsafe when our children will be returning to school, most likely before a vaccine for COVID-19 is available. We should be spending more on cleaning supplies, not less. We also object to the reduction of $30,000 from the South Lyon East band and choir programs, $15,000 to eliminate the band choir coordinator, and $15,000 to reduce the band staff. This would absolutely cripple both programs. Furthermore, doing this while simultaneously increasing the budget for South Lyon East High School CMS athletics by over $116,000 is a slap in the face to the students, parents, and staff who work tirelessly to promote the arts in both the school and the community. We would propose a more modest increase to the athletics fund, for example, $86,000 instead of $116,000, to offset the $30,000 needed to keep the band and choir programs at their current funding levels. It is patently unfair to decimate the arts while other programs are not only unaffected but actually receive increased funding. The South Lyon East Marching Band was selected to march in the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C. this year, but unfortunately the parade was canceled due to COVID-19. This is a testament to the students' hard work and the quality product that Mr. Smith, who for good reason was selected as the South Lyon East High School Teacher of the Year, puts in on the field every year. When was the last time any athletic program received a national honor like this? In conclusion, we urge you to reconsider the proposed budget cuts we have outlined above. We realize that cuts are necessary due to changes in state funding. However, we implore you to make the cuts more equitable than the ones currently proposed. Next up, Jill Hammond states, I'd like to voice my disgust over the massive cut in budget to the high school band programs. It appears that this program is the only program that is receiving such a massive cut. I completely understand the need for budget cuts in this difficult time. However, I do not understand why it is only the band programs taking this hit. Why are there no other programs taking a financial hit as big as this one? Over 100 kids make the band program their home, and it is just as important for those students as the football program is for those athletes. And football is a true extracurricular activity, while band is part of the curriculum. This program is essential to those students looking for a career in musical education, music therapy, music performance, and many other careers that stem from music. On top of that, it is proven time and time again that music programs have the ability to help students in other subjects like math. Please consider changing this budget proposal. Please spread the budget cuts across the sports programs as well as the music and arts programs. Next up is Miss Allison DeHorn. And she states, regarding the cuts to the music band program at both high schools, I do not think the people who came up with this budget fully understand what this means. The band and choir program simply could not function without Laura Hogan and Beth Agnew, the coordinators whose jobs are proposed to be eliminated. To expect the band and choir directors or the booster boards to take that work on is completely unrealistic. The amount of planning and scheduling, bookkeeping, coordinating that needs to happen in these programs is far beyond what those band and choir teachers can handle alone. I am a parent from East who has been involved in the band program for several years. I find it hard for me to think of any staff member who works harder than Laura Hogan for the small amount of money she gets. She works daytime, evenings, weekends, and always goes above and beyond for everybody. The success of the music programs at our high schools will tank without these coordinators. Also, the $15,000 cut to the marching band staff at each high school will cripple the marching bands. These students put in literally hundreds of hours of practice, and they have made it to the state finals at Ford Field every year since they started competing. I don't know any other extracurricular groups in Southline Community Schools, aside from the robotics team, that have been that successful at the state level. East Marching Band was invited to perform this year at the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C., which is a once-in-a-lifetime honor for a high school marching band, and the district celebrates this by cutting off their program at the knees. Marching band is a family and a place for some kids to fit in when they do not fit in anywhere else. The emotional fallout from this decision will run deep and will destroy these kids. Marching band is something where you absolutely cannot understand the importance unless you have experienced it firsthand. I fully understand the financial crisis we have, but there needs to be smaller cuts across the extracurricular activities teams to share the burden rather than decimating one particular program. If this $60,000 cut was spread across all activities and teams, it would be about $1,000 deficit per group. That amount could be made up by one can and bottle drive. Nothing against athletics because I have children who participate or will participate in those, but I am tired of the arts always getting the shaft. They are just as important as athletics and need to be treated as such. Next up is Miss Ann Murphy, and she would like to speak about the marching band cuts. Miss Murphy, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Murphy, and I'm a parent of a South Lyon High School student. I would like to implore the board to please rethink the proposed budget cuts to the already underfunded band program. The band program is a family. It has helped my son to develop both emotionally, socially, and educationally. It's been a positive experience for him and for all these kids who are so passionate and they work rigorously to make this an enjoyable experience. The students and parents of the band program work so hard to fundraise to help subsidize what the school doesn't provide. I hope you can take into consideration the amount of parent input in this board meeting. I'm sure you probably haven't had this much in a long time, but how much this program means to everyone, not only in the band, but the residents of South Lyon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Miss Lorena Velasquez, and she would like to talk on the cuts to the music department. John Blades would also like to talk on the South Lyon East band budget. Mr. Drew DeHorn would like to say, I understand that this time requires cuts to be made, but I would like everyone to please realize that the cuts you are making to the band program is not only budgeting on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet. Marching band is a family. I didn't have a lot of friends going into high school. Marching band was where I found people that cared about me. I know of many students that have problems and see band as an escape. It's not all about playing instruments. It is about all of the wonderful people that I have met and become great friends with. Staff that go out of their way to help students both during hours and at Buffalo Wild Wings at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. Yes, that happened. By cutting this budget, you are cutting out the people that truly care for us. You are cutting up our family. I've already had to give up plenty because of COVID-19. You better not force me to give up my band family too. Next is Ron Smunsky, and he would like to speak on the unjust band cuts. Mr. Smunsky? Are you on the line? You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Ron Zumsky. Good evening. I am a parent of a South Lyon student, one who graduated last year and another who is a freshman in symphonic band, marching band, and South Lyon percussion. These times are tough, I get it, but these are budget cuts that need to be spread out across all programs, not just band. Band students are often the top of their class, and they are student leaders, skills that they learn in the band program. Many band students actually go on to music-related programs and majors in their post-high school education. So band is an important part. The coordinators and techs are the glue that holds the programs together, and their funding needs to be maintained. They keep these kids moving forward, both in band and in life, and it's an important part of band. Please reconsider these proposed budget cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Miss Tracy Rosel to speak on the East Choir, and Miss Hogan. Miss Rosel? You need to unmute your phone and then you can speak. Okay, since we have another 40 comments to go, I'm going to move on and we'll come back. Next is Morgan Campbell. She states she would like to keep the programs. And next up is Mary Robinson. She states, it has come to my attention that there are plans to drastically cut both South Lyon schools, high schools, music programs budgets, specifically band and choir. In light of the global health crisis and its effects on state funding, this next fiscal year is going to be one of the toughest we've experienced in a long time. I know budget cuts are to be expected. I see the plan is to cut $60,000 out of the high school music program, $30,000 from each high school. But what is baffling to me is that the cuts are not across the board, cutting funds from all programs. Why? I understand the athletic budget is even gaining an increase. To me, that smacks of blatant favoritism. What does this teach our kids? Artistic, creative students are to be overlooked for athletics. I hope the administration and school board will reconsider this message it is sending to our students and will reconsider targeting budget cuts to one program over others. If there are to be cuts to funding, it needs to be done equally. Next are Kathleen and Michael Sleek. Please consider the value that marching band provides to the students, their families, and the community. The opportunity is an important music educational skill level, one that the students take with them throughout their high school and college career years. Our son and now his sons love music, love band, and work as hard as any sport participates. Their teachers and support staff are the best of the best, so dedicated to each student. We need the arts in our school. We love sports, but half of the people attending the games came to see the marching band performances. Thank you. Next up is Morgan Kovalik, who would like to speak on the South Lyon bands. Morgan, are you on the line?
Hello?
Yes. Ms. Kovalik?
Yes.
Okay, you're up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Morgan Kovalak. I'm a freshman at South Lyon High School. I participated in SLP, concert band, and marching band so far. I firmly believe cutting $60,000 is very disheartening for the band program. Being a student who has been in the band program for almost 5 years, this is a very tragic event. I ask you to think about all the band programs that could be lost from this: marching band, pep band, jazz band, SLP, and more. Without these bands, kids lose an important part of their lives and something they strive to be a part of. Music is a form of therapy. By making these cuts, you're cutting music from people's lives. By making these cuts, you are hurting many people, including myself. Think of all the children who love band and use it for happiness. Thank you for letting me speak this evening.
Thank you. Just a quick note, I guess someone has stated on the YouTube channel that not all the board members are visible. Unfortunately, the way our setup is, we can only show the person speaking and then the rest of the people are on the side. But all the board members are present in the meeting and are hearing everything. With that, next, Pravai Bhatnagar would like to speak about the budget cuts. You do need to unmute your phone in order to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to introduce myself before I start the portion that I wrote. So my name is Purvi Bhatnagar. I'm a sophomore at Beltline East. Other than the band program, I'm also in debate and robotics. So I know how it's like to be in like other activities that also demand cost. In the band program, it's taken up a lot of my life. I'm in marching band as well as jazz band and clarinet choir. So I'm really busy with band and I love it so much because of the family that it's given me. So now I'm going to start the written portion. First of all, I would like to say I understand with this chaos, it is difficult to manage the budgets of so many parts of the school. However, it is absolutely enraging how the band program is insanely disrespected and backstabbed in this budget cut. Thousands of dollars, no, hundreds of kids across South Lyon. Year-round, 24/7, the band program has left a massive engraved mark on the hearts of so many, and it continues to do so. We may not be the most popular, but we work hard, and our voices deserve to be heard. No pushing around anymore. How is it even possible that the school board cripples the entire branch of high school and consequently gives that money to other sports programs? It is evident to everyone now, no matter how many awards we get, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much love and passion we give, we will still be pushed around for sports. This is madness. The band program isn't just an extracurricular to so many people. It's a second home and a safe haven for kids who aren't accepted for who they are anywhere else. The last year alone showed other upperclassmen and sophomores like myself how much mental health has a looming threat for the incoming freshmen as well as high schoolers. But instead, the band saved many freshmen by giving them a judge-free environment to express themselves. On top of this, band has proven time and time again how much of an asset we have been to this community. This year, the East Marching Band was honorably selected by the governor to represent Michigan at the Memorial Day Parade. Unfortunately, we couldn't go due to COVID-19. Even with such defeats, however, the band program has worked extremely diligently to raise funds before this massive budget cut, with can drives, Christmas cabarets, selling flowers, baking pies to sell, and etc. However, with this budget cut, it will be nearly impossible to bounce back, no matter how hard we work to raise our own funds, more specifically for marching band. Furthermore, Mrs. Hogan, the band and choir coordinator, has been instrumental in the organization of all band events as well as choir events, and dealing with the catastrophic paperwork that comes with it. Not only this, but she's been passionately dedicated to the well-being and futures of students at East for many years. Without the help of Mrs. Hogan, it would be unreasonable to expect Mr. Smith, who teaches all 5 hours of the day on top of other band programs he teaches after school, to manage the organization and paperwork that Mrs. Hogan has helped with. Thank you for listening to our concerns.
Thank you. Next up is Alex Barron, a student that would like to talk about the music cuts. Okay, I don't see them on the line, so I will come back. Next up is Miss Angela Hugo. You do need to mute yourself in order to speak. Miss Hugo? Okay, we will come back to her as well. Next up is Miss Emma McKay. She states to continue funding for the art performance programs such as band, choir, and theater. These programs are as important to students as sports are to others. Taking away a group of programs that fundamentally help a student's high school experience career finding, and a source of content would be a great, unfortunate loss. Consider finding funds and resources in others instead of leaving the programs in the dust. Ms. Hugo, are you on now? Okay, I guess it looked like she joined. Okay, next up is Megan Blades. She states it is outright wrong to take $60,000 from both of the band programs. As a graduating senior from the Southline East High School and a part of the band for 4 years, I can say that we have worked too hard on this program to see it demolished by this budget cut. We already did not receive the support on our program that we really need, and cutting it further would only make this worse. Every year, our students work our hardest to succeed. We have proven our worth as a band program through state competitions and being invited to march in the National Memorial Day Parade. And it is just sad to see that the school district does not support us through our successes. One vital part of this program function goes to Laura Hogan. It is unfair to take everything away from this program and from her. This program should not have to suffer while every other program goes untouched. Okay, and just a reminder, in order to unmute yourself, you do need to press *6 when it's your turn to speak. Okay, next up is Elena Barron. Are you on the line to speak about the programs?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Angela Hugo. I'm a teacher and parent in the district, as well as treasurer of the East Choir Boosters. I just wanted to address the music coordinator position. As the Choir Booster Board, as the Choir Booster treasurer for the last 3 years, I couldn't keep the financial books without Miss Laura Hogan's help, and the program will suffer greatly. By not being there with the kids, I'm not sure how a volunteer job like the treasurer could function. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Elena Barron, are you on the line? You need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, the next person is anonymous. I do not support cuts to the band music. Music is important to the developing brain. It is a valuable program for many students. Next up is Katie Whitney. She states, we should not be cutting funds from just one program. If you need to take away it evenly from everything. Band is just as much important to people as sports. This is what many of us love to do, and taking that away by taking away funds is terrible of you. Please reconsider. This is many people's high school life. These are where they meet their friends. This is their activity. Don't take that away. Next is Noah DeHorn, and he would like to speak on budget cuts. Mr. DeHorn, are you on the line? You do need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, I do not see his number in the list, so we will come back. Next up is Madison Boyle. She states Southline East High School band program is an extremely important part of the Southline community Southline community. Marching band staff are absolutely necessary. Cutting those funds would effectively eliminate the marching band program. Laura Hogan, the music coordinator, is also an essential part of the band program. Without her, the band program would struggle immensely. Cutting these funds would make it extremely difficult for the band program and the music program as a whole to survive. These kids are in some of the toughest and most formative years of their lives. These years solidify their values and determine the person they are going to be. This program effectively saved my life, whose life will be worsened or ended if you decided to cut funding for the arts. Instead, I propose cutting funds to the athletic programs, especially football, since they don't seem to win anyway. Better yet, take a smaller amount of funds from each athletic activity in addition to the arts. It seems incredibly biased and unreasonable to only cut funds from this one area. And if this passes, I will strongly question the motives and integrity of each person who agrees with these cuts. Do right by your community. Next up is Miss Nicole Blades, and she states, inequitable budget cuts to the Southline East Band program. I feel that if you wish to make a budget cut for extracurricular programs, that it should be equitable to all programs: football, soccer, baseball, tennis, cheer, basketball, swim, band, etc. One program should not have to bear the burden of being cut so much and that no others are affected. Your Southline East High School Band has represented the district very well. Matt Smith was named Teacher of the Year, and now you are going to take his program away. Southline East High School Marching Band was nominated to march in the National Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C. Southline East High School Marching Band has attended the MSCA State Finals at Ford Field for 4 years in a row, every year since they started competing. That alone should speak volumes about what a great program band is. Laura Hogan provides a vital service to the band and choir departments. Mr. Mida and Mr. Smith would not be able to do all the work that Laura Hogan helped them with. All the paperwork and all the individual student accounts for each of the programs, fundraising and logistics for each of the programs, secretarial support for each of the programs, and so much more that happens behind the scenes that we don't know about. I think that this is a bad move for the school district. It devaluates the band music program and promotes sports. Have you ever attended band camp? Do you know how much physical activity it takes to participate in band? Do you know how hard these kids work? Band is a sport. Many students can tell you how hard being in marching band is and how much it takes a toll on their bodies. It is no different than any other sport and should be given the same consideration. Making unequitable cuts is unfair and will hurt the district in the long. You end up losing great teachers and you will lose parent community support when it comes to bond proposals. Please think hard about this inequitable decision. Megan Blades states, it is outright wrong to take $60,000 from both of the band programs. As a graduating senior from Southline East High School and a part of the band for 4 years, I can say that we have all worked too hard on this program to see it demolished by this budget cut. We already do not receive the support from our program that we really need, and cutting it further would only make this worse. Every year, us students work our hardest to succeed. We have proven our worth as a band program through the state competitions and being invited to march on the National Memorial Day Parade, and it is just sad to see that the school district does not support us through our successes. One vital part of this program function goes to Laura Hogan. It is unfair to take everything away from this program and from her. This program should not have to suffer while every other program goes untouched. Benita Olmus would like to keep Ms. Agne's position funded. Next up is Amy Ramage. She would like to speak on the music and choir programs. Ms. Ramage, are you on the line? If so, you need to do *6 to unmute yourself. Miss Amy Ramage, I think I see your number on the line. Okay, if you figure out how to unmute yourself, you can join us later. Next is Alexander Shaw, and he would like to speak to the Southline East Choir Program. Mr. Shaw, are you on the line? Mr. Shaw, you do need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, next up is Stephanie Boyle. She states, it is completely unacceptable to cut the band program funding. If cuts need to be made, then all extracurricular activities should be equally cut. The band program is critical for students' development and the most important program offered at the high school level. Thanks in advance for your consideration.
This is Amy Ramage. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I am speaking in support of the choir program too. I know that music is a very important curriculum, and there is a lot of studies that show that music aids in brain development for kids, and it forms it's an available means for a lot of kids that are more shy or maybe not as talented academically or athletically to a place to succeed. And it's very valuable in building the confidence of these kids. They form friendships and camaraderie that they might not otherwise have. And I really support Mrs. Agne's position too. She keeps all the financials straight. She really encourages the kids to do their fundraising, and she also makes a good effort to make sure that kids that would like to participate can get the funding. Those that are underprivileged or the families are struggling financially, she works to help make sure that those kids can participate too. And I think that's a very, very valuable position that she has. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Miss Gwenda Fair. And she states, reconsider the allocation of funds. Cutting the band funding is in this amount with other cuts is not equitable. Studies show that students who study the arts are more successful on standardized tests such as the SAT. They also achieve higher grades in high school. Music study enhances teamwork skills and discipline. In order for band to sound good, all players must work together harmoniously towards a single goal, the performance, and must commit to learning music, attending rehearsals, and practicing. The amount of funding cut all at once is incredibly damaging and discerning to the students and families. Next up is Mr. Chad Kudinger. He would like to speak on the South Lyon High School band cut.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board tonight. Everyone has spoke very highly in a well-spoken manner. I'm just going to go a little unrehearsed on this. Mr. Court, the Berg family, and a number of other families spoke very highly tonight of all the facts. I just look at it as a new parent to South Lyon, and only being a band parent of 2 years, my first involvement in band, what an impact it is, what these children do, how it has an effect on the community in the number of ways they touch people. If anything, from the effort they put in, whether last summer, Friday let out on school last year, they were back at it on the next Monday for the next season, for the next year. These kids put in a ton of effort. They work tirelessly, and this is their sport. This is their motivation. For a lot of these kids, it's their career and future. Some of the ways that they put effort in, and then the impacts that they do, how they reach the community. They reach it through bingo and the seniors. They reach it through the veterans, through the Memorial Day Parade. They reach it through the Christmas Parade, the Cool Yule events, or the Pumpkin Fest, the bands in the parade. This is something that we see kids that put such a positive outreach for our community and who they are. And then last but not least, it's the value. The value here for these kids. If you're going to appropriate monies in certain places and approve and disapprove, we want to put that money in the right place to get the best value out of it. And this department, these people are the best value for this community with what they have and what they're given to drive home the successes that they reach. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Next up, Ashley states that she wants to represent the choir. Roxanne Grant states, specials in school, kids need physical education to keep fit. Please don't cut this. Alexis Smirnov states, as a member of the South Lyon East Marching Band, it breaks my heart and so many other amazing kids' hearts to hear that there are budget cuts only in our department. While I am aware that cuts are needed, it should not only affect one group. While the arts get affected, the sports will not be affected. I personally think we should find a more even and fair alternative to these cuts. Not only do we work hard to put effort into everything we do, the band already is short on money, and cutting more is just unfair and a big slap in the face. Taking away something that we love is unruly and horrible for all of us, and included in the department. I ask that you please reconsider, since this will affect many students' lives in a negative manner. Thank you. Next is Megan Trapp. And she states, I strongly encourage you to maintain the magnet program as is without any budget cuts. The kids in this program have been identified as having an academic need for the accelerated education program as a result of the diverse teaching methodologies employed in the magnet schools. Students' diverse learning needs are better met, and attendance and graduation rates improve. Students, teachers, and parents alike are more engaged in the educational community of magnet school programs. This program has enhanced my son's interest and engagement in school. Katie Whitley states, we should not be cutting funds from just one program. If you need to take it evenly from everything. Band is just as much important to people as sports. This is what many of us love to do, and taking that away by taking away funds is terrible of you all. Please reconsider. This is many people's high school life. These are where they met their friends. This is their activity. Don't take that away. Next up is Mylan Wisdom. And they state, I write this in the hopes that it doesn't fall on deaf ears. I could get the assumption, not being part of the program or seeing it in action, that in these hard times, the easiest way to save money would be to cut the cost of our choir program. I can see it being easier to justify as a board than cutting the funding for one of the sports teams. But for us, it would change everything in an already turbulent enough time. As somebody who was never part of a team growing up, always sort of on my own, choir is where I naturally gravitated. I'm so glad I did. Most of my good memories in high school so far were with the choir. It brings so many of us together, and we put so much work into what we do. I hope you can believe me when I say this is something truly important, something we can't do without support. We're already doing fundraisers all the time for the money we need for our projects, especially for the every other year trips that we look forward to, which each student wants to go to already has to pay a lot for. Our choir is the only thing for me and a lot of other people that makes me feel like I'm part of something that matters. This is truly such a special group of people I find myself in and led by. Our director is someone I'm personally very lucky to know. You don't just find people like him anywhere. I don't even know how you found him. He cares so much, puts much of his life into this, always goes above and beyond for not only us, but our school system. He has so much talent and skill in what he does, and he's still always trying to improve, looking at others, for example, and reflecting on himself as to where he could do better. Next is Julie Kuick. There's no comment. Next up is Jacqueline Janoski. And she states, I am strongly opposed to the proposed budget cuts to the arts program for Southline Community Schools. Budget cuts are never easy, but these proposed cuts seem to be unfairly targeting the arts program. Why aren't cuts being spread across the board? I see an increase to athletics, yet cuts to the arts. I honestly don't know how anyone can pass these cuts in good conscience. I have 2 children deeply involved in the arts programs in our district, one at Millennium Middle School and one at East, though both will be at East next year. These programs are incredibly valuable to our children. They provide a creative outlet and are incredibly confidence building. They provide a family and sense of belonging to our children at such a critical time in their lives when they are discovering who they are and where they belong in the world. They provide team building skills and leadership opportunities as well. Specifically, I see the position of Laura Hogan, the band and choir coordinator for the Southline East, is in jeopardy. I cannot tell you how essential Ms. Hogan is to our choir and band programs. I'm always amazed at the amount of work she handles and handles smoothly. She is the glue that holds everything together, from handling choir costumes and fittings to scheduling concerts and festivals, organizing fundraisers and planning trips, keeping track of all of the kids' points and earning their school letters, keeping track of payments for trips and spirit wear. all communications among parents and students, and everything else in between. Furthermore, you have the amazing dedication of Daryl Middaugh and Matt Smith at East. Mr. Smith was chosen as a Southline Community Schools Teacher of the Year. I would think saving the funding for his band programs would be top priority for you and a way of showing our community's great appreciation for him and our other music directors. The bands and choirs are already running on a shoestring budget to begin with. I urge and implore you to reconsider these cuts tonight and take more time to spread the cuts equitably across all programs. Thank you for your time. Next up is Matthew Zumsky, and he would like to speak about the South Lyon East Band. Mr. Zumsky?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Shumsky, and I'm a current freshman member of the South Lyon East Marching Band, Symphony Band, Jazz Band, Trombone Quintet, and South Lyon Percussion. I'm speaking out against the cuts to the band program for many reasons. The marching band members are all extremely close to each other and are often referred to as family. Marching band has personally helped me through a lot of hard times throughout the school year and has made the school year much easier by finding very nice friends that I've found. The marching band members are extremely dedicated. Many go into music careers, and if they don't, they almost always continue to play their instruments throughout the rest of their lives. This year, we also got nominated to march in the Memorial Day Parade in Washington, D.C., which unfortunately has gotten canceled due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Ms. Hogan is also incredibly important to us. She handles a lot of business and financial stuff that, if left all to Mr. Smith, would be very hard to work with. That is why I propose that the cut is spread out throughout all after-school activities, as I see that it is unfair to be targeted directly to the band program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Jim McCullough states, budget. Can the board explain the justification for lowering music budget while simultaneously increasing the athletic budget? What is the budget spent per student in each department? Are the music students less important? Next up is Jaya Sharma.
Can you hear me? My name is Jaya Sharma. I am a mother, and of course, my daughter is in band. She is a band student. She's a member of band, marching band, clarinet choir, percussion, jazz band, robotics and debate at South Lyon East High School. But that doesn't mean that I do not have any idea about other activities, because I have been a host parent for the international exchange students who were into choir and also into athletics, whether it be cheer, soccer, swim, or golf. We actually moved like 5 years back from Canada to Michigan. And of course, from hosting exchange students, I do understand that which activities in school does provide a safe environment to the students and provide them a long-lasting relationship. And after seeing the proposed budget today, which I was forwarded by one of the band parents, I was literally shocked, and I could just go and look at those numbers, which did not absolutely make any sense to me. And I do not know that how can there be so much injustice done to the band program? Because South Lyon band program, whether you talk it at about South Lyon East High School or at South Lyon High School, both have been like consistently showing their best performance at the state finals. And they are always like ranking in top 10 marching band in the state of Michigan. Now, whether it's like, if we are talking about band program, then whether it's a solo ensemble, like duets, quartets, or the ensembles they perform at the MSPA competitions, then in every single competition, our students have been receiving awards from the beginning of the school year. Like, they start practicing in those scorching heat in July, and till almost the end of the May, they are performing. They perform throughout the school year. And band and the choir program are the ones which are like giving a sense of belonging to every single participant without judging them, which we all know. I mean, like, you all board members know that happens in the high school. And band program has been consistently performing their best without even receiving the same level of support that is shown to the other athletic programs. I'm very sorry, but during the football competitions, the whole city of South Lyon shows up at either high school. But it's so disheartening to see, like, to not see that when the marching band program is performing, then there is such a lack of support for the band programs, even if the performance is at as close as Novi High School. We do not even receive any support from the city. So if the cuts are that essential, then definitely it should be done, and it should be fair and square. And it should be done from all the areas, considering that athletics is the biggest taker of those expenses. When you look at those numbers, like the most numbers are in the athletics, then instead of just removing from one area, why don't we just equally divide them? Whether, like if you want to do it, then do it from every area. And Mrs. Hogan at South Lyon East High School, like she is one of the bottleneck resource of the music program at East High School. Now, South Lyon East High School is already so short of the resource for band program, and the proposed cut to band program, that will literally cripple the program and affect the mental health of the students. And I'm sure that all of you board members can understand, for last 2 hours, we all have been sitting and listening to the students and to the parents. So what value it is bringing to our community, to our students, to our parents. So board needs to understand that high school is not, I am really sorry to say that in very simple, blunt words, but high school is not just about popular sports and popular students. It is for everyone, where everyone can safely belong. And South Lyon community schools need to do better and not make those stereotype decisions. South Lyon Community School should be proud that Mr. Matthew Smith, who is awarded the best teacher, and provide him and Mr. Court, who is in South Lyon High School, and provide them more support and not take away support from them. I hope that South Lyon Community School and the board members will make an informed decision by, again, please looking into the expenditure numbers and also the results that are achieved after those expenses happen. Thanks for listening. I had to say all that. I know you guys have a very long evening, but please do consider into this very seriously, because it's going to have a very long-lasting impression and effect on the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Janae Olmus, and she states, please keep funding for choir and band and keep Miss Agnew on the payroll. Next is Mr. Tyler Willems, and he actually represents the Teamsters. Why is custodial and maintenance getting cut when we are in a pandemic? Wouldn't the schools need more staff to ensure they are clean and safe? Also at this time, giving administration a raise. How is this just? Ms. Ariana Ramage says, I have just graduated from South Lyon High School and was involved in the choir for all 4 years. Without choir, like many, I would not have been nearly as successful in my high school experience. South Lyon bands and choirs are central to the South Lyon experience of the town as a whole. It is imperative that these programs are preserved for future generations to enjoy. I understand how difficult it is to make these decisions, but having my senior choir events canceled as a result of the COVID was one of the most devastating things I've ever experienced. And I hope that future students have the opportunity they deserve to pursue music. Next up is Nathan Freund. And he states, I grew up and went to school in little old South Lyon. This was a time where Hornbrook was a family, not a neighborhood. We were a little farm town with a big heart. Each halftime, a band of 150 kids would take the field and bring a fantasy of entertainment to the stadium, filled with milk jug shakers and moms wearing away jerseys. That group entranced me, and when I made it to high school, they took me in. They gave me a family, taught me values, gave my family a way to support my passion while recovering from a devastating recession. My years at South Lyon, I dedicated hours upon hours of time and energy to the program. We were hearing about going through budget cuts over 10 years ago, but we made it work. Year after year, I've watched my hometown grow, but seemed to watch funds disappear for the fine arts. I am the manager of a multi-million-dollar business down in Texas now, and I understand life is expensive. Our economy is in a very different place than it was in years past, but we have to adapt in order to maintain a high-quality experience. Cuts happen. Life is a balancing act with a focus on profit and loss. Put your best players on the court and value all assets based on function, merit, and value. Be a place to help students' passions flourish no matter the program. Watch what amazing art that group of students can make with a little bit of faith. South Lyon has changed, grown, and adapted. Chunks of orchards sold, restaurants closed, and a whole lot more people. But I sure hope it hasn't lost its heart and care for its community. Please reconsider the current budget proposal. These students deserve some faith. Next up is Jennifer Liskey. And she states, as a former band and choir parent, I can attest to the importance of the music program at our high school for our high school students. All of my children benefited greatly through the work of Mr. Smith, Mr. Middaugh, and Ms. Hogan. They are dedicated to their students and making sure the program runs smoothly and going beyond what is expected of a typical school staff member. As a board member for both groups, I know the importance that Laura Hogan has in running the program and helping the parent volunteers support the program. We couldn't do what we do without her there. She maintains a consistency that is vital to keeping the things running well. These cuts to the music program will cripple the program. I would hate to see future students not have the opportunity to benefit from this program. I know that finding ways to save money are difficult, but I would hope you could find a way that does not take away funds from a program that is as successful and beloved as our music program. Next up is Miss Nikki Rose.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, perfect. Hi, my name is Nikki Rose, and I teach elementary music at Hardy Elementary, and I am a proud SLEA officer. This evening, you have heard from community members and educators advocating for our fine arts programs. I stand with my colleagues and my musical community, but I also stand with all of my fellow educators. I understand school budgets across the state and nation are facing impossible decisions. The fact is, we need federal funding, and we need you and those passionate community members that have been calling to contact their legislators to demand that funding. I'm not naive, and I understand that a potential $500 per pupil reduction will need to come from somewhere. I ask the board to keep these proposed cuts as far away from our classrooms as possible. Start with the expenses that are farthest away from our students and work from the outside in. Our classes are literally bursting at the seams. I ran out of seats in my classroom because of the high class sizes, 28 in lower L, 33 students in a class. That's not even including students pushing in for inclusion time. How can we even propose adding more students into our classes? That directly affects students. Let me say it again for those in the back, that increasing high class sizes to lay off teachers in order to save money directly affects our students. Eliminating media monitors from every elementary building literally takes away books from our children's hands. It takes away valuable prep time away from our teachers, which is actually a contract violation. On top of that, eliminating these positions put 8 staff members out of a job. 8 familiar faces that our students need now more than ever would be gone. This directly affects students. I could go on, but it's almost 9 o'clock. So I just ask you to review the proposed budget. I urge you to send it back to committee. We need to take a hard look at these cuts and make sure they're equitably dispersed and far away from the classroom. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I hear Mr. Noah DeHorn is on the line now. Mr. DeHorn, are you online?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Noah Horn, and I go to South Lyon East High School, and I'm a part of the symphony and marching band. And I want to put my opinion on the budget cut from the bands program. By cutting $60,000 between the schools, there will be a lot of changes and not necessarily beneficial ones. Band to me is like my life, my passion, my safe haven, and my second family, and a large quantity of that will be taken away. The cut will include taking away Mrs. Hogan, the music department coordinator, who always puts in her 100% in everything that she does. She takes care of all the work that Mr. Smith and Mr. Middaugh cannot do alone. She organizes, plans, supports, and encourages everything and everyone, including the trips, helping with the marching band shows, the whole music department, and every single member in it. If she is taken away, that will create more problems and will lead to a lack of passion in the field and stress for events and plans. The marching band will be heavily affected due to the fact that we won't have any field staff to help, who are not only there to help with the show, but are trustworthy to talk about personal issues. And we won't be able to pay for our marching band competitions and everything that is included with it. Marching band puts in probably the most work to the show than any other extracurricular activity, since we are out there for hours upon hours for multiple weeks just for one moment, a very special moment, state competitions. We don't get any timeouts or do-overs, and taking away that moment crushes the worth it feeling for all the members. So we have to work very hard for an end result that we want. Other extracurricular activities are getting a significant raise in their funding, and it seems like only the music department is suffering from it. Taking stuff away from our program, and mostly our program, is unfair and will take away multiple members' life and their passion for the future. Not to mention that it will damage relationships that are just like family. No, relationships that are our family. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cam Quattro. They state, choir is my only chance at being involved in my school and in community in a way where I can express myself. It does not seem fair that music is being taken down because people find sports to be more important. As a kid who is not athletic and doesn't feel myself when playing sports, I find it quite destroying to my personal being that I can't have the same experience in school as the kids involved in school sports because there isn't an activity that suits me in my extracurriculars. Being in choir gives me a chance to be myself and show others my ability. It is unfair that the fine arts programs are attacked first when budget cuts are in the question. Next up is Publis. They represent concerned voters. I hope that each board member listening to these comments is in support of the music program has actually heard the voices of their constituents. We voters are watching how well you represent us, and our voices will be heard at the next election. Next up is Christy Mosier. She would like to speak on behalf of the Southline High School bands. Ms. Mosier, are you on the line? Again, it's *6 to unmute your phone. Okay, I don't currently see her on the list, so when she arrives, she can then speak. Next up is William Carter. He states, I am an alumni of Southline East who graduated with the class of 2017. During my 4 years at East, I was a part of the symphonic band program, marching band program, track and field, and football. Sports and athletics are a major part of my life as I was also a student athlete at the collegiate level in football and an exercise science major in school. With that said, I am truly heartbroken at the news that $30,000 would be cut from both the band programs at each high school. The arts is an excellent way for students to express themselves. It provides students with a voice and provides many life lessons, like sports also provide. Band is a family. I've met many lifelong friends that I still keep in touch with and will continue to because of marching band alone. I do not want to see kids stripped of this opportunity. I believe the cuts should be evenly divided amongst other extracurricular activities and not just bombarded on one. Please consider this, as this decision could greatly affect my children and faculty who truly care about the students they have given their time to help. Carmen Bowman states, how can these cuts be made when it shows all administration gets raises? How can you justify these actions? Also, with the cuts towards maintenance and custodians, how can we possibly keep everything cleaned and maintained when we are short-staffed now? Next up is Avery Oakley. She would like to speak regarding the choir. Ms. Oakley, are you on the line? Again, you need to press *6 to unmute. Okay, I don't currently see her, so when she joins us, she can also speak. Next up is Grace, and she says, I just wanted to help explain how important the arts programs are in our district. All the teachers, students, coordinators, and families work tirelessly to help make the program succeed with an already lower budget. We are a major part of Pumpkin Fest parades and booths that bring the community together. Students work extremely hard in all arts departments, and they are the way for them to express themselves and find a supportive community. It is very concerning to think that there is a chance to cut the things that Southline families and especially students put their entire hearts into. Thank you for listening to the people, but please consider how many people would be negatively affected by the cuts. Okay, that's currently my last speaker. Now I'm going to go up and try to see if anybody has joined us. So Avery Oakley, have you joined us yet? How about Alexander Shaw? Have you been able to join us? You need to press *6 on your phone. How about Elena Barron? How about Alex Barron? Morgan Campbell? Oh, Morgan Campbell just says keep the programs. Okay. Tracy Rosel? Mary McGinnis?
Good evening. This is Reverend Mary McKennis. Thank you for making time for me. And I also want to say to the entire board, I know these cuts are hard, and I know no matter what you decide at the end of the day, that it's going to make someone unhappy. But as a parent that had a job change 3 years ago and had to move here with a 10th grader at the time, it was Mr. Court and Mrs. Agnew that truly embraced my child and helped her find a home. We came from a large school district with a powerful band and of 200 and came to South Lyon, and we're so thankful for the amazing education opportunity here and still a quality band program. In 5 years from now, when my child is looking back on her South Lyon years, she's a 2020 graduate this year, she is going to remember her top 5 people that she's going to remember in your school district is going to be Mr. Court and Mrs. Agnew. Mrs. Agnew has created amazing opportunities to help her develop her character and her leadership opportunities. And what the band has provided for community and have a sense of family has just been invaluable to my family. Not only do I have a child that's graduating this year, but I also currently have another sophomore in the program. And band is great for our community. It's been spoken to several times about how they represent again and again at parades, at community events, quality opportunity. As a community leader, I want to challenge you, dear board, to think outside the box and to rethink some of the choices you've made, because the way it looks on paper really screams of injustice. And I don't think that is the message that you're wanting to send to the community or to the other students. There needs to be a little bit more equality and how these cuts are happening. Cuts have to happen. Absolutely. I get that. I understand the world we're living in, but I think there needs to be some justice around it. And I hope you've heard the comments that have been made and the important effect that band has not only on the individuals and families, but also our community. Thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you. How about Lisa Bartosik? Sable Dobby? Joshua McCallum? Marge Smith? Emmy Mendez? Okay, so at this time, I think we will move on. If anyone that I named or anyone additional would like to speak, there will be an additional public comment at the end of the meeting. And with that, I think we should probably take a 10-minute break if everyone on the board is okay with that. I don't see any board members.
Everyone's giving a thumbs up, Carrie.
Oh, thank you. I can't see anything. Okay. All right. So it is 8:58. So let's meet at, how about 9:10? All right. We will see you at 9:10. Is everybody ready?
Good to go.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. All right, we are back in the meeting. So our item number 4 is approval of agenda.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve the agenda.
Support. Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Ms. Ertel. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Anshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Tell,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 5, approval of minutes.
I will offer a motion to approve the minutes for the 2 special meetings of May 18th and the regular meeting of May 18th.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Dashner to approve the all the minutes on May 18th. Any questions or comments?
No, just thanks for Judy for putting them together.
Right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, I vote yes. Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Tell,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Uh-oh, he froze up.
He's gone.
He'll be back.
Must be peak Netflix time at his house.
All right, Mr. Kennedy, can you continue on? We have Abate, Clark, Ertel, and Kennedy.
So I vote yes, Mr. Clark.
Yes.
And Mr. Tell. Or
Yes.
Mr. Dashner, rather.
I vote yes.
And Mr. Abate has now returned, I think.
Okay, how about Mr. Schwegler?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
I will apologize for not paying attention to what order everybody was in there in that call.
Okay.
Sorry about that, folks.
Okay, all right. We did get a response from everybody, so motion did pass 7-0. Item number 6, the new superintendent contract agreement. I'm guessing I should read this one. At the May 18th meeting, the board voted to hire Mr. Stephen Archibald as superintendent effective July 1st of 2020, contingent upon reaching a contract agreement. The recommended action is to approve the contract agreement between Mr. Stephen Archibald and the Southline Community Schools as presented. Can I get a motion?
I will move.
So moved. Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Ms. Ertel. Any questions or comments regarding the new superintendent contract agreement?
I'll just say thanks to my colleagues, Mr. Dashner and Ms. Hanshaw, when we went back and forth and negotiated that. I appreciate the time we all spent.
I'll echo that, and I appreciate President Hanshaw's time too. I know she put in a lot more than Eric or I did as well, chasing down questions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of back and forth, and I appreciate everyone's effort on that. And I appreciate Mr. Archibald's graciousness in the process as well. So I am very excited to hire him. So with that, Mr. Abate, can you call the roll?
I can. Ms. Anshaw,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Dashner,
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
and Mr. Tell.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. And with that, we have now hired ourselves a new superintendent. So congratulations, everyone, and welcome, Mr. Archibald, Southline Community Schools. Next up is item number 7, the contract extension for administrator.
I suppose this is me.
I think that's you, Mr. Heitch.
So annually, the Board of Education approves a contract extension for our 3 cabinet level assistant superintendents. The Board of Education reviews and approves these. The contracts provide for a 2-year agreement with an annual extension to be considered. The contract duration is from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022. And the first contract we have for your consideration is for Lisa Kudwa, Assistant Superintendent for CETA.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will move to extend the contract for Lisa Kudwa, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Technology, and Assessment.
I will support that.
All right, moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Abate. Any questions or comments?
My only comment would be is if we can amend the contract to change the language for the pay, that biweekly statement that's in there, and make it semi-monthly. It still maintains 24 pays a year.
We will do that.
And that will apply for the next 2 as well.
Yes.
All right, do we need to change the motion at all with that? Or is this still, is the motion okay the way it is?
You should amend the motion.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
I will amend the motion to extend the contract for Lisa Kudwa, Assistant Superintendent, with the change in the verbiage for compensation to read semi-monthly instead of bi-weekly.
I will support that again.
All right, moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Abate to approve the contract with the corrected language. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mr. Tout.
Yes.
Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes.
And Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 8, contract extension for administrator.
Again, this is the same as the contract extension for Ben Kirby, the Assistant Superintendent for Administrative Services. And we will note to make that change to semi-monthly in that language also.
Okay, can I get a motion for the amended document?
I'll move to approve the contract for Mr. Kirby with the amended pay language for semi-monthly.
I'll support
that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Schwegler, to approve the contract for Mr. Kirby with the amended language for semi-monthly. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Absolutely yes.
I also vote yes. Mr. Tout.
Yes.
And Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 9, contract extension for administrator.
This is the contract extension for Stacy Witt, the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance.
Can I get a motion to approve the contract with the semi-monthly amendment?
I'll move to approve the contract for Ms. Witt with the amended pay language.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Clark, supported by Mr. Dashner to approve the language for Ms. Witt's contract with semi-monthly included. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Tell,
Yes.
and Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Welcome back to all of our administrators. Item 10 is the Newsleah purchase. And I'm sure I said that wrong again.
The purchase of Newsleah, which is an online text resource for use in grades 3 through 12, was presented at the May 18th meeting. Pending the Michigan Department of Education's approval, we are planning to use CARES ESSER grant funds to cover this purchase. No changes were requested, and we recommend that you approve the purchase of Newsleah for $77,980,000 for the use of with students in grades 3 through 12 for the 2021 school year.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the purchase of Newsleah for the 2020-21 school year.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Ms. Ertel. Any questions or comments regarding the Newsleah purchase? Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
I'm definitely going to run out of creative ways to mix this up tonight, guys. So I'm sorry if you hear the same orders start coming up. Mr. Tell,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Dashner,
I vote yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
and Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item number 11, the NWEA MAP Accelerator purchase.
Yes, the purchase of NWEA's MAP Accelerator math product was presented at the May 18th meeting as well. And again, pending Michigan Department of Education's approval, the program will be funded through the CARES ESSER grant funds. No changes were requested, and we are recommending that you approve the purchase of MAP Accelerator for $20,605 for use in grades 3 through 8 during the 2021 school year.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll move
So
to.
moved.
I'll support.
Okay, moved by Ms. Ertel, supported by Mr. Dashner to approve the NWE MAP Accelerator purchase. Any questions or comments? Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, I vote yes. Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
and Mr. Tell.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 12, the 2020 and 2021 MHSAA membership resolution. Is that Mr. Heitch?
All right, annually, you're presented with a resolution for membership for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Recommended action is that you adopt the resolution for membership in the MHSAA for the year August 1, 2020 through July 31, 2021.
Thank you.
So moved.
I'll support.
Moved by Mr. Tell, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the MHSAA membership resolution? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Tell.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
and Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 13, policy 6220, the budget development and administration policies, Part D, fund balance.
Good evening. The 2021 recommended budget was presented at the May 18th, 2020 board meeting and was not within the parameters of board policy 6220, stating the district fund balance will be maintained at the level of 10% of total general fund expenditures with an allowable variance of plus or minus 1%. The recommended action is to temporarily suspend the policy language contained in policy 6220 under general fund budget policies Part D from 10% plus or minus 1% and allow for the district fund balance to be maintained at 6% plus or minus 1 for the 2021 school year.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to temporarily suspend the policy language for the fund balance for the 2021 school year.
Can I ask one quick question? With this technically would allow us to go down to 5%. I know we were kind of talking about in the fund, in the meetings to kind of stay around 6. Should we, are we okay with that? Knowing that we could dip down to 5 if needed?
Hey, Dan, we should probably have a second
Yeah.
for that motion before you start discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Abate. Questions or comments? Back to you, Mr. Schwegler.
I have a question. Sorry about that. So that's all I really wanted to know. Do we want to make sure that we don't go below 6 with this? Because this technically gives that authority if needed? Or are you guys fine with it?
The way I see it is, and we've seen it in past years, is that due to rounding, we could have something that's like 5.98. Sure. And this would give it that flexibility. In the end, it's up to us to pass budget amendments. We usually see 2 of them throughout the year. So that does give us a chance to change where our financials are going to be as it relates to the fund balance. I don't know that addresses your concerns, but
well, in actually, Dan, the proposal that you're suggesting here, it's actually would be, we have to maintain a budget level of 5% for our fund balance. It's plus or minus 1 from 6.
Okay, so I couldn't remember the exact number. So if that's where we're at, I'm fine with it then.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Hanshaw.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Mrs. Ertel.
Yes.
And Mr. Clark.
Yes.
And Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 14, the public hearing presentation of the 2021 recommended budget.
Good evening. Presenting my screen now. Can you guys see it okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you
Okay.
see us or can you only hear us?
I can't see you guys, so I can hear you.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions or comments, you need to say them, not just nod your head.
Correct.
Okay.
So I will begin the 2021 recommended budget presentation. For the sake of time, I won't spend as much on this time on the slides that were presented at the last board meeting that are exactly the same. And we'll spend more time on the new slides. The budget is broken into 4 sections: the state of the state, the 2021 recommended budget, what about Southline Community Schools, and the financial forecast for the future. The state of the state, in January, the governor proposed a $225 per pupil funding increase. It was just a short 2 months ago. The district was budgeting $114 per pupil increase and had to make drastic changes to address the state of the state right now, and built a budget on a $500 per pupil reduction with the state funding challenges. These charts are from the May Revenue Census Conference, estimating conference, and it's showing the 2020 decline from 6% to 7% in the state aid fund net growth at the state level. The school aid fund net revenue estimates are much, much below than what they were currently actually here than they were in January. The changes since January are in the millions of less fund. The 3 bars on the left are the general fund for the state. The 3 bars on the right are the school aid fund. And this is the reduction in the estimates since the January conference. These are also estimated reductions since the January for the fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022. So this is going to hit schools if we don't find other funding for the next several years. As of May 2020, school aid fund for Michigan's major taxes were estimated to have a $1.1 billion shortfall for the 1920 fiscal year. That's this year, resulting in an estimated $650 to $700 per pupil funding cut in the current 1920 fiscal year. Lower than projected sales tax collections in conjunction with the decline in casino revenues accounted for much of the discrepancy between actual collections and the monthly targeted estimates. Year to date, the school aid fund revenue for 1920 is $1.2 billion below the January consensus revenue projections, and sales tax collections are the primary reason. All of those school education tax collections are below year to date target estimates as well. This is a chart showing the retirement and the underfunded liability at the state level for pensions that's scheduled to be paid off in the year 2038. Moving into the 2021 recommended budget, truth in taxation presentation. The 2020 taxable value for all properties increased by 6.3% versus the 2019 amount. As a comparison, the increases from 2013 through 19 were as follows: 2.9, 5.6, 6.3, 6.3, 6.9, 6.4, and 6.6%. The taxable value total does not impact the district's operating budget, but it does have an impact on the district's debt funds. It should be noted that the taxable value of 2021 existing properties could only go up by inflation for next year, which was low at 3%. The 2020 taxable value for non-homestead and Headley calculation: in May of 2016, the South Lyon voters approved a 10-year millage of 19.972, which is the authorized amount that will be subject to future rollbacks. This millage was rolled back under Headley calculation to 19.0544 for the 1920 school year and is further rolled back to 18.9476 mils for the 2021. The amount levied will remain at the maximum amount of 18 mils as in previous years. Our 2021 Headley calculation is calculated by taking your prior year taxable value minus your losses, multiplied by inflation, divided by your current year taxable amount minus the additions. You take and you multiply that by one. You take the result of that and multiply that by 0.9759, and we got 0.9944. Since 0.9944 is less than 1, we have a Headley rollback. So our 1920 millage rate was 19.054. We multiply that by 0.994 to get our 2021 maximum allowed at 18.9476, and we are levying the maximum allowed of 18 mils. The 2021 debt levy calculations based on the total taxable value of the district and the current schedule of bond principal and interest payments. It is my recommendation to reduce the current debt levy of 7.9 mils to 7.1 mils for the 2021 school year. The 2020 summer tax collection fees are as presented. There were no increases from the 2019 summer tax collection fees. The Finance Committee met on May 26, where we reviewed the 2021 recommended budget. We reviewed the draft budget reductions and discussed that they are subject to change as more information is learned from the state and from administration. We also discussed the 2019-20 budget amendment to assumptions. The 2021 recommended budget general fund has a total revenues of $86,899,455, total expenditures of $88,660,103, leaving a net operating loss of $1,760,648. Once you add in the transfers to other funds, the net decrease to the general 2021 recommended budget is $2,606,648. Our revenues are 90% coming from the state, 2% from local sources, 5% flow through the ISD, and 3% are from federal grants. The 1920 per pupil allocation is $8,111. Budgeting a $500 per pupil decrease puts us at a 2021 per pupil allocation of $7,611. We are not projecting in the recommended budget for any enrollment increase. We're maintaining a 0% enrollment increase at a blended student count of 8,700, or an estimated fall student count of 8,773. With a fall 2020 estimated student count of 8,773 and a spring 2020 student count audited count of 8,724, that brings our weighted average student count to 8,768. 2021 total per pupil allocation of 7,611 multiplied by 8,768 students is a total foundation revenue of $66,733,248. Of that, we levy 18 mills from our local taxpayers. That amounts to $9,172,067. So the actual amount of foundation allowance we will receive from the state is $57,561,181. Of the 18 mills that we levy from taxpayers, 50% or 0.5% of that is budgeted as delinquencies, and that amounts to $50,750. So the total amount of local tax revenues being budgeted for the recommended budget is $9,121,317. For sections 147A1, A2, C1, and E, this is the retirement payments that we get directly from the state through state aid, and we have to turn around and pay right back. The estimated increase for those categoricals is $17,623, bringing the 2021 estimated allocation to $7,360,589. While proposal A was never intended to fund all schools equally, the question still must be asked: are South Lyon students worth millions of dollars less than the average district in the state? This chart shows 1920 per student base foundation allowances for surrounding districts. Southfield getting $11,331 in their per pupil foundation at the same student count as South Lyon of 8,773 students. That would be $28,249,060 more in funding if we got funded at the same amount as South Lyon Community Schools, or Southfield Community Schools. Sorry. County average is $8,935 for pupil funding. State average is $8,403 in pupil funding, and South Lyon is at the minimum base foundation at $8,111 per pupil. This is a ranking of schools based on how many revenues total revenues that they receive, not just from the state, per student. South Lyon brings in $10,099 per student and is ranked 559th school district in the state for bringing in the most revenues per student. Now we'll get into expenditures. In the 2021 recommended budget, 51% of the expenses are made up of salaries, 36% is made up of benefits. Capital outlay is so small, it's calculating at 0% of total expenditures. Purchased services are at 6%. Supplies are at 4%, and other expenses are at 3%. The salaries in this budget our contract reads that SLEA increases at 62.5% of estimated per pupil increase, which is a negative 6.16% this year. So the salary increases in this budget are projected at 0% with a 1% increase to the top step in the SLEA contract, and MESPA is at 65% of the negative 6.16% also equals a 0% increase in the salary schedules. This budget does include steps, new hires, retirements, resignations, and layoffs. Overall estimated decrease in salaries, the 1920 budget is $239,478. Fringe benefits include impacts of Public Act 152. CAP increased the medical consumers price index by 3.3%. Differences are paid by the employee. Oops. And I can't, whoops, sorry. I have to skip that last one. Retirement is budgeted on a overall percentage that Office of Retirement System gives to school districts for planning, because every plan costs a different district different, and there's probably 15 different plans that is all over the place. So they take an average percent of that rate to multiply amongst all salaries. 27.5% is the average retirement rate, and then 12.41% is the MIPSR stabilization rate, bringing the total recommended retirement rate to be budgeted to 39.91% for the 2021 school year. Overall estimated cost increase in retirement is $74,800. This chart shows the reductions or increases from the 1920 Amendment 1 to the recommended 2021 budget, with a decrease in salary accounts of $239,478, or 0.5% of total salaries. It's increasing benefits by $275,055, decreasing services, purchase services, supplies, and capital expenditures of $1,210,527. In this recommended budget with class size and the teacher's position, it's projecting our K through 5 class size target at 26. In the 2021 budget, we're estimating a 0% enrollment increase, and it has a reduction of 8 FTE in the teaching positions. In the staffing changes in this budget, we have 7 unassigned teaching positions eliminated, 1 pre-K teaching position eliminated, excuse me, 1 paraprofessional teacher or paraprofessional position eliminated, 1 bus driver, 11 support staff, 1 administration, and 4 maintenance, for a total of 26 FTEs. Excuse me. Instructional versus support costs. Instruction is defined as direct classroom costs. It does not include costs such as guidance counselors, media specialists, social workers, nurses, PT, and OT. Past budget adjustments have been focused on non-instructional areas. In 2008-9, $7.2 million was spent on instructional costs versus support costs. For the 2021 recommended budget, gap increases by 341% to $21 million. So the district has consciously made an effort to increase instructional costs faster than they're increasing support costs. The 2021 budget reductions identified to reduce the budget by the amount we needed to is subject to change. Just 2 months ago, we were budgeting a per pupil increase, and we've had to fastly change directions and identify stuff. So this list is still being worked through and is subject to change. On our list right now is 1 administration staff at $181,316, 1 middle school support staff at $104,520, 1 central office support staff at $63,553, 1 elementary staff at $85,000, $100 district classroom fund reimbursement reduction of $25,000, 8 elementary support staff of $80,000, increased class size, that budget savings of $680,000, alternative testing option or alternative testing for optional program, a reduction of $10,000, 2 operational staff and a reduction of $104,000. A 1920 building allocation donation from the buildings of $26,279. One secondary support staff of $110,000. Central office budget reductions of $372,227. Extra duty pay reduction of $61,400. Two operational support staff of $67,024. Two secondary support staff of $165,000. Southline High School and Southline East High School carryover donations totaling $100,000 of $60,000. 2021 building budget reductions of $95,600. Summer expense reduction of $26,860. 0.3 FTE of special ed support staff at $25,125. One special education staff position at $85,000. District capital outlay budget of $129,000. District operational budget of $45,500. Two maintenance staff at $122,394, and the district technology budget at $38,900. Total reductions identified in this list total $2,863,698. The breakdown of reductions is non-instructional reductions of $674,891. Instructional support reductions of $1,278,807. Classroom instruction of $910,000. This, I'd like to remind the board, this is a working reduction list and will be changing and adjusting as more cuts are identified and spread out equitably across the district for what's best for students. In the financial forecast, this will show that we do indeed need to identify more budgets if the federal government doesn't come to supplement state funding. Previous budget adjustments will continue. Includes revenues and expenditures changes as of right now through the end of May 2020. Includes revised state aid and enrollment projections. Last April, we were projecting a 1% increase for 2021 enrollment increase and a 1.4% increase in state per pupil funding. And we revised in April of 2020 a 0% enrollment projection increase in this budget for 2021, a negative 6.16% reduction in per pupil funding. 21-22, we are now projecting a 1% enrollment increase and a 1.4% per pupil funding increase. In 2022-23, we're projecting 1% enrollment increase with a 1.4% per pupil increase. With those assumptions and those forecasted budgets, you can see this graph. This is annual revenues over expenditures in the general fund. 2021, we're losing over $2.5 million. 21-22, we're in 22-23, we're still showing almost a $2 million loss to the fund balance. This chart shows the fund balance and how it's gradually going to go down if we don't make changes and reduce more expenditures, or we don't identify additional revenues. This is the same information, but as the fund balance as a percentage. So the forecasts bring the 2021 recommended budget has an operating shortfall of $2,606,649. The budget does not meet the annual, it does not have an annual operating surplus. This would bring the fund balance to $5,629,372, and it would not be in board policy of the 10% plus or minus 1. In 21-22, using the assumptions I just spoke about, that would result in a shortfall of $1,827,883. It is not an operating surplus. It would bring the fund balance down to $3,801,489, and the budget would not be in the board policy of the fund balance policy. In 22-23, with these assumptions, the budget's projecting a shortfall of 1,890,338. Does not have a operating surplus. It would drop the fund balance in 22-23 to $1,911,151, and we would still not be in a board policy of 10% plus or minus 1. So what's next for Southline Community Schools? The Teamsters contracts expire June of 2022. MESPA contract expires June of 2023. SLAA contract administrators expires June of 2020, and SLEA contract expires August of 2021. The Finance Committee will review and continue to meet on the reductions in the reductions list. The state's target budget approval date is still unknown. We'll continue to work on that reduction list, finalizing budget documents in June and July, and amend the budget in the fall based on actual student enrollment and actual per pupil funding amounts. And that is the end of my presentation. So with that, this agenda item was presented at the May 18th, 2020 board meeting. Some requested changes were made and have been made, and we've presented those changes today. I'd like to remind the board, that we are not asking them to approve the reduction list today, but just the budget expenditures and the revenue amounts. And we will continue to work on that list. It is the recommended action from administration for the board to approve the 2021 recommended budget as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Witt. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2020-2021 recommended budget as presented.
Do we have a support? Do we have support for the motion so we can discuss it?
It appears the motion died.
Okay. So.
So can we pause for a moment? If we don't have a motion on the floor for this, we're not even gonna, are we moving on? We're not gonna have a conversation about this? Is
We
that the
can't discuss
situation
it without a support.
Yeah, without a
All right.
support. we can't discuss it.
Well, I'll support because I would rather us talk about it and have an opportunity to go through some of this. If that means we decide, to vote no, it means we decide to vote no. But I think we need to, we heard from how many people tonight? 60, 70 people?
We could also table it.
Well, just as a point of clarification before I say anything else, so I understand what Stacy said, we're moving. If we approve this motion, the list of cuts, including everything that we've just heard from the folks tonight and so forth, are still a matter of discussion and debate going forward. We're not necessarily voting to make the cuts that are listed in this document tonight to do the things that the folks who called in are concerned about. We're not committing to that. We're simply approving. Could you rephrase it for me one more time, please? I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, are we just committing to cut $500 from the budget?
That is correct. The administration has not formally identified specifically what positions, exactly what's going to be cut yet. This is, like I said in the budget presentation, 2 months ago, we were building a 114 per pupil dollar increase. This has been a drastic change and we need time to identify. We still have meetings this week with administration to review additional cuts and do what's best for kids as we see in this list and make it equitable across the board. We haven't had time to identify everything yet. We were requested to share this list, but this wasn't our actual list to submit for board approval. Can you correct me if I'm wrong, George?
No, you're correct. And I'll remind you, this is a $500 per pupil cut in the budget, with us being really fluid and not knowing if that's where the number's going to end up based on federal stimulus. And the language we hear out of Lansing is that nobody wants to hold school districts harmless for the current school year, which is in a paradox compared to the fact that they know they're not going to have enough money in the school aid fund to finish the school year. So there's still a lot of ambiguity ahead of us. So we're asking you to approve a budget with a revenue and expenditure that has $500 per pupil less in it, knowing that we're still actively working to identify specific reductions for you to approve, because that could look a lot different in August than it looks today based on what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do in schools.
And further what George said, we've discussed this quite a bit in the finance committee. What we're presenting here is a budget, and what we saw at our last board meeting, it's a guess. I mean, I don't want to call it a cartoon, but in a way it's a cartoon because we have no clue what our cuts are going to be. We hear stuff coming out of Lansing that it could be as high as 20 or 25%. If that happened, it's going to be like a nuclear bomb went off in our school. And the cuts, quite frankly, I don't know how we're going to do it. But at this point, between the cuts that are going to get made, or at least presented to get made, and what we've decided that we can spend out of the fund balance. Now, we decided to go down to 6%. An important thing to note about that is that keeps us off of the state watch list. That starts at 5%, and we have to start submitting all of our financial decisions to the state. So we're trying to avoid that as long as possible. If we have to do it in the future because financial stay tanked, so be it. But we don't want to go there with this first round. So what's going to happen? We have to approve this budget. We have to have an approved budget by the end of June.
Point of order, President Hanshaw, we're entering discussion, and we can either do that with a motion to go into a discussion period, or we need to have a motion in a second.
I thought Mr. Abate seconded it so that we could have the motion.
You officially second that because it died on the table.
Well, I don't want to make a procedural mistake. If it was too late, it was too late. But I don't want to, I want to be able to talk about this. I don't want to just walk away from it.
Then I think we can make a motion in a second to enter into a period of discussion regarding the budget.
Then I will move that we enter into a moment to discuss the budget.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Clark to discuss the budget.
So where I was, I guess I can pick up now, is that we have to have a budget in place by the end of this month. It has to be approved. So if we don't do it at this meeting, it's going to come back at our next meeting, or we have to have another meeting before the end of the month, beyond our next regular one. So I think I just lost the internet. So anyway, it's going to come back. We're going to have tough decisions, and we're not going to have any clarity from the state before we do this. It's still going to be just a guess.
Okay, President Hanshaw, we had a motion in a second. We should have voted on that motion before we started discussing.
Don't we normally discuss before we vote?
Well, we had a motion in a second to discuss.
But then Randy, you said the motion died.
Well, the original one did. But I'm saying you made a motion, I made a second, and we should have had a board vote to enter into a discussion period.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay.
I apologize. I jumped in.
Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Sure, Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler,
Yes.
Mr. Tome.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Now we will discuss the budget.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm trying to understand, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, did you have something you want to?
That's okay. I just want, we should do things right, and I just want to do it right. So.
No, that's all right. You're right. We do need to do it right. So what I want to understand is what we lose. What is the difference between us? Trying to get my head around the difference between us proving this right now and then continuing to decide where this money is going to come from versus doing nothing with it right now and then having to come back and do the same thing in the next meeting. I don't know what do we gain by we're going to have that discussion regardless. We're going to have to cut regardless. So why not? Why would we not do that?
I agree, but Mr. Abate, when we approve a proposed budget after a public hearing, that becomes the budget. So in all those line items are committed to. So we would have to then alter that proposed budget at some point with an amendment. So when, in essence, those line items do become committed to. Now, the individual cuts of personnel inside those line items are still under the purview of the administration, but we're committing to those line items as they are in the budget.
With a commitment to amend the budget in the fall.
Correct. Yes.
As soon as we know actual numbers.
Correct.
So that we can correct those.
Right. If it's appropriate, I do have two questions real quick, Ms. Witt. Does this presented budget contain the funding for the central office seated position that was previously recommended for elimination by the Finance Committee, number one? And number two, could you confirm that this proposed budget in the support service amount for the middle schools, I believe it was 104,000, does that eliminate the SRO deputy at the middle school campus?
Yes.
Answer yes to both of those questions.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, if I remember a little more than a year ago, when we were faced with similar cuts, not this extreme though, we were presented a budget amendment that eliminated some positions, and I believe it came to the board. We voted and said no, and we sent it back to committee to say, find another way to do this without eliminating personnel, our support staff. What makes doing it this way different than voting no? And are we sending it back to committee right now anyways?
You're correct, Mr. Kennedy. We did go through that process and we did send it back to the committee for revision. But that was an act by the board, a motion and a second and a vote to return it to committee to make modifications. So
help me understand what would be the most correct way at this point right now, at this moment, to have this get a second look at and see if we can't fix what we heard today by the next meeting, represent this at the next board meeting, and hope that that is something that we can live with until the fall, where we know there's going to be another budget amendment.
That depends on the desire of the board, what they instruct the committee to do.
So that would be a possibility to have another motion.
Well, we have until the end of June to approve the budget.
Okay, do we need to move to send it back to committee, or can we just say, Stacy, take this back to committee and see if we can't fix it up?
It's been done both ways in the past, President Hanshaw, your choice.
Well, and to be honest with you, we need a little more direction of what cleaning up looks like to the seven of you.
Correct.
Right?
Granted.
And
Yeah,
I guess the thing that I would like to point out is with 86% of our budget being salaries and benefits, we're cutting one person for another person. I mean, that's what it amounts to.
And truly, the scary thing is we may be facing much larger cuts, as Ms. Witt has inferred, further this into the summer or early fall. It may get much worse.
Ms. Witt, I have one question. A couple of people brought up that the athletic budget was actually increased. What is that about?
I am currently working with athletic directors to find athletic reductions currently. They have not made it into the list, but every time I presented this list, I've tried to be very clear that this is a working document that your previous reductions, we had I wasn't a part of them, but we had much more time to sift through, identify, get feedback, creating that list. We have had to do an absolute turnaround in 2 months, and we are trying to seek guidance and feedback as we create this list, and we have not gotten to all departments yet. That's why I've publicly stated every time I've presented this list that this list is a working document and it's subject to change, and we are going to do what's best for kids, and we are going to get as much input as possible from all stakeholders as possible in those decisions to make what's best for kids. So I didn't necessarily want to present the list because it is a moving target right now, and there's so much unknown, but we were asked to present it.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess if I can speak a little, oh, go ahead, Tony.
No, please, Dan, go ahead.
Like I've said before, Stacy, I think this is a really good start, and I can certainly appreciate how difficult it is to get to this point on such a short time frame. And I'm sure we kind of want to move forward, but I don't have a problem coming back at the end of the month if that gives you a little bit more time, now that we've heard from a different group of stakeholders tonight, to continue to tweak and to work on the list. Because what I don't want to have happen, it's probably easier to make a small adjustment now than to have to come back and amend it later if we do want to make some sort of change, you know?
Whatever the board wishes me to do, we're going to continue to work on this list and make it equitable across the district as much as possible all the way through August. Whether you guys send the budget back to us now or not, that work's going to continue. If you postpone approving the budget until the end of June, I highly doubt we're going to have concrete numbers. So we can make those adjustments. You can approve in June. We're still going to be amending in the fall. So it's whatever the board wishes. I don't have a problem either way. You just have to have a budget approved prior to July 1.
I guess the concern that I have with that is by saying that, we approve it now, but we'll have an amendments in the fall. How does that work in terms of, you've got these line items right now, which could potentially be people, are those potential cuts happening before we would come back with an amendment, come September when school starts?
We plan on, as we get through all of these reductions and lists, and we've taken the time to vet it and make sure it is equitable, I believe, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, then we submit our cuts for board approval. That will amount to the expenditures reduced in the budget that you approved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Ben, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the process here in this district?
Yeah, I'm following you. The teacher reductions and layoffs would go before the board for approval. The other ones are not formally approved. Other units.
If I may.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jenny. No, go ahead, Jenny, please.
I'm trying to work it through my head that, again, if we're approving something now, but you're not going to have any kind of amendment until August, September, but knowing, the big ticket item tonight or the hot button tonight is with marching band and band, if you're looking at that program potentially starting up here in the next few weeks, especially with the state opening back up, those staff members, I'm thinking, would be almost immediately affected before we even get to any kind of amendment in August or September, because the program has started. So how do we make sure that if we're really looking at the numbers and we're trying to preserve a program, how does that get preserved in the next couple of months if we approve something now, or even at the end of this month?
So one way for us to look at that is to say that those reductions are not necessarily targeted at a specific program right now, but that we're going to have reductions out of the Schedule C where those contracts are paid for. And it will be administration's job to figure out where in Schedule C those reductions could happen. Some of that may happen naturally because there may be a group of activities next year you can't offer, no matter how safe things feel, that are funded for out of Schedule C. So we tried to provide specific examples. Maybe we need to be more general for you because of the ambiguity of the budget.
What does the board want to do moving forward?
At this point, I'll make a motion to return the proposed budget to the Finance Committee for some further tweaking, and we can discuss potential of generalization or whether we want to keep it the way it is.
Okay, do we have support?
I'm willing to put the work in at the committee level at this point. It's important we get all the stakeholders heard from.
I'm willing to support that, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, moved by Mr. Clark, supported by Mr. Kennedy to move the budget back to the Finance Committee with anticipation of bringing it back to our June 18th meeting. Is that our next meeting, I think?
15th.
June 15th.
Okay, sorry. Okay, with anticipation of bringing it back then. Any questions or comments regarding that motion? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Sure, Mr. Tell.
Yes.
Mr. Schweigler.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy
Yes.
and Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes, motion passes 7-0, so the budget will be sent back to Finance for further discussion. All right, item 15 is the 2020 and 2021 millage rates.
This agenda item was presented at today's board meeting during the board presentation with the Headley Rollback presentation and your debt millage and your 18 mil operating levy presentation. Recommended action is to approve the 2021 millage rates as presented.
I'll move to approve the 2020-2021 millage rates as presented.
Support.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Clark to approve the 2020-21 millage rates as presented. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Dashner.
Yes, out loud this time.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Tell.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy
Yes.
and Mr. Schweigler.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is the 2020 summer tax collection fee.
Yes, this agenda item was presented at today's board meeting in the budget presentation. The 2020 summer tax collection fees will remain the same as they were in 2019 from our local municipalities. Recommended action is to approve the 2020 summer tax collection fees as presented.
I'll move to approve the 2020 summer tax collection fees as presented.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Dashner, supported by Mr. Clark. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the 2020 summer tax collection fees? All right, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Schweigler.
Yes.
Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes.
Mr. Tell.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 17 is the South Carolina Administrator Association Collective Bargaining Agreement Approval. Mr. Kirby.
All right, the Southline Administrator Association and the board's negotiation team have agreed to a successor agreement that would expire June 30th, 2022. All the contractual provisions that are in the current contract of July 1/16 through June 30th, 2020 collective bargaining agreement would remain the same. I would recommend that we approve the successor agreement as described in the letter of agreement between the SLAA and the board's negotiation team.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will move.
After
Go
you.
ahead, Dan.
I'll move to approve the motion.
I'll support
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Moved by Mr. Swagler, supported by Mr. Kennedy to approve the FLAA collective bargaining agreement. Any questions or comments?
If I could, just for the public's benefit, Mrs. Hanshaw, the Administrative Association agreed to reopen wage negotiations if we end up in a severe budget scenario, and the other organized groups also agreed to open up. Just so the public knows that the administrators are willing to work with us.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Do we know if that had the semi-weekly versus the semi-monthly issue?
I will look into that with all of our contracts. Those are long written, but I'll be sure to clear those up if that's the case.
So as of right now, we don't know, so we don't need to adjust the amendment. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mr. Tao.
Yes.
And Ms. Hanshaw.
Yeah, motion passes 7-0. Next up is item 18, administration. First up is the middle school proposed handbook changes. Ms. Kudwa.
Yes, the middle school codes of conduct have been updated for the 2021 school year. Two major changes have occurred. References that were made to the board policies have been updated because the board policies and administrative regulations have changed the numbering system. So that's the primary switch in this. And then we also added a section to clarify behavioral expectations when students are in an online learning environment. These updates will be brought back to the June 15th meeting for approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, next up is item B, the Southline East High School proposed handbook changes.
The code of conduct for East also includes the same changes just mentioned at the middle school. It is being brought separately from Southline High School, as Southline High School had some additional school-specific updates that were needed. And we do bring these middle school and second and high school separately, so that's why this is not with the middle school piece. Like the middle school changes, this will be brought back to the June 15th meeting for approval.
One of the things we discussed in policy today was the idea that students should not be or are not allowed to order food via delivery systems, DoorDash, Uber Eats, etc. And there was discussion about adding that to the high school handbooks. Would now be the time to discuss that, or should we, I don't know when you actually hit send those to the printer.
By the end of June.
Okay. So I don't know if, Mr. Kirby, I don't know if we want to share the language that we originally had in the policy or send that back to the principals.
Well, the discussion with the principals was that it's not an issue. So it was a potential policy revision that we talked about at our policy committee, and the principals discussed that it wasn't much of an issue, and if it was, as far as food getting delivered, wasn't an issue. And they really didn't want it to be at the board level, so we did not or aren't going to be looking to put that in a board policy. What I understood from the principals is that they were going to discuss to try to determine whether or not it needed to be put in their handbooks, whereas they did not feel like it's an issue, but they felt like if it was something that they could handle through the handbook. So I'll communicate with the secondary principals to see if there is some language that they want to get added prior to them going to the printers. And I think that's probably the best way to go about that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments about the Southline East handbook changes?
No.
Okay, let's move on to item C, South Lyon High School proposed handbook changes.
Yes, in addition to those same updates that are occurring for both middle schools and South Lyon East High School, South Lyon High School also has updated information about when students are allowed to wear hats, a correction to their list of after-school activities, and some updated information regarding their media center. And again, like the other codes of conduct, this will be brought back to the June 15th meeting for approval.
All right, any questions or comments? Okay. Let's move on to item D, accounting textbook purchase.
Yes, the current accounting textbook does need to be updated. The software that the students use to practice accounting utilizes the Flash Player system, which as of December will be obsolete. So we need to update that textbook and the supporting software. Brenda McCloskey and Mike Fabry, the accounting teachers, have identified Cengage's Century 21 accounting textbook, the General Journal, 11th edition, a new resource that includes a textbook, workbook, and the necessary software. Based on the teacher review of the materials, we are recommending the attached textbook purchase from Cengage for use in the accounting course beginning in the 2021 school year for a total cost of $13,486.20. The committee's recommendation was shared with the Curriculum and Communications Committee last month, and one of the committee members has arranged for the company that her husband works for, Plant Moran, to donate the funds necessary to make this purchase, which otherwise would have come from the two high school budgets. So this purchase item and the related donation from Plant Moran will be brought back for the June 15th meeting.
Excellent. Thank you to that parent and the Plant Moran.
Sarah Jones, we should name her here so that she gets public credit for coming up with a wonderful idea. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Any other questions or comments regarding the textbook purchase? Okay. Item E, the 2020-21 board meeting schedule. Dr. Heitch. You have to unmute yourself, Dr. Heitch.
You know, that was the most articulate I've been in months. And I was on mute. So the draft schedule for board meetings next year follows the pattern that you typically have at South Lyon, with the exclusion of all the special meetings that you've had this year. We'll bring it back for approval at the June 15th meeting. I would ask you to think about August, though. Right now, there's only one meeting scheduled in August. You may find, given the economic situation in Michigan and Mr. Archibald being new, that you may want two meetings in August, and you might want to think about that as we go forward.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions or comments about that schedule? Okay. Item F is the 2019-2020 budget amendment number 2. Ms. Witt.
Yeah, the 1920 budget amendment 2 was included in your board packets for information. This budget is based on our current 1920 per pupil funding level of $8,111 per pupil. The budget amendment 2 results in a projected surplus of $1,380,873 in the general fund, leaving an estimated fund balance at June 30th, 2020 at $8,332,748, which is 9.3% of expenditures. The 1920 budget amendment 2 will be brought back to the June 15th board meeting for approval.
Thank you. When should we find out if we're getting a budget cut to the 1920 school year?
Nobody knows. It could be as late as August, and they would hold it our last state aid payment for the 1920s. We get our last 2 state aid payments for the 1920 school year in July and August. They could decide in July or even in August to withhold it out of our last state aid payment.
So would we have to reapprove a final budget, or
no? We would have to find the cuts that would come out of the fund balance, the actual fund balance, because this is just a budget.
Right.
We can't go back and amend the budget after June 30th. So we would have to, the fund balance would have to supplement that reduction, and we would have to find those reductions in 2021 on top of the reductions we're already finding for the 2021 per pupil foundation decrease.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, item G, legislation.
We really have no legislative update other than budget conversation right now.
Okay. We don't have any CETA comments. Board committee reports, legislative, Mr. Clark?
There is a legislative virtual meeting, I believe, further, I think it's this week, later on in the week.
Okay. Policy, Mr. Abate, do you want to talk about policy today?
Yeah, and Mr. Curry can jump in if I miss anything. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff right now. We scrolled through so basically all of our policies to highlight a few tweaks that have been made that came through. And then we looked at the administrative guidelines as well. There wasn't a whole lot left to look at. I think Mr. Curry, I don't know if you'd agree, but it seemed like it was pretty clean from everything that we'd done. We just kind of had to look at a few things, and I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, there were what we looked at. There were a few revisions that had occurred from when we were in our process of being in the final stages of approval. So some of those changes we discussed, those will go before the board at the next board meeting for information to start with. And then also we shared the website is available now. Obviously, those policies don't go into place till July 1st. But the website link is available for people to look at. So the committee got a peek at that as well.
And that works really nicely. I think I think community-wide people are going to be appreciative of that. I know administrators certainly who have to apply those policies are going to be happy that they can get after things just by keyword and that sort of thing. So that's a big improvement from what we had.
Yes.
All right, finance, I think we saw part of what you did today, and I'm guessing you're going to be going back, but is there anything else that you need to update us on?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Facilities Planning Committee.
We haven't met.
Okay, Curriculum and Communications.
We met we met last week. You saw the student code of conduct adjustments. We talked about professional development in August. That's about it, really.
All right. Item J is other. Dr. Heitch, do you have any other?
No, we do not have any other tonight.
All right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I have a quick other, if I could jump in real quick. I just want to note that I did tender the vote tonight for the Oakland Intermediate School District. Voted for our own local George Ellert for a board position for the next 6 years.
Excellent. Did you have to actually drive to Oakland schools, or was it virtual?
Nope, they did it virtual. It was kind of slow, and I'm guessing it was a little bit more difficult than I thought, but we were able to do it. We got everything we needed. So
great, and you didn't have to drive all the way to Pontiac, so
right.
Bonus for us. Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next up is item 19, reports. I don't have anything from the Southline Educational Foundation. Mr. Abate, have there been any updates with them?
Not that I'm aware of. Just lately, I'm sure they're talking, but I wasn't privy to the latest meeting.
All right, thank you. Next up is item 20, public comments, and we do have some additional ones. So I will start. First up was Peyton Beck, and she states, I wish to speak on the matter of budget cuts to the music programs. In addition to being part of the music program, I am also part of the SLHS girls swim and dive team, so I am no stranger to budget cuts. I implore you to rethink these budget cuts and or disperse them evenly across all programs. It is deeply unfair that the music programs are taking all the hits, as they have for years. Sports like football and cheer have no understanding of the hardships the music programs face, and I believe as a student body, we should be taking these budget cuts equally and together. Thank you. Next up was Avery Oakley. She states, I tried calling and it says unavailable, so I'm trying here to see if this reaches you. I am a soon-to-be graduate at Southline East, and I have been in choir all 4 years of high school. I was a part of the cheer team as well, but I can honestly say there was nothing that even came close to choir. It shaped my entire high school experience, and I think cutting it would be so horrible for the future of students to come. Nicole Blades states, when our school district is suffering financial hardships, no persons and no groups should get a raise or an increase in any budget monies. Okay, we have Andrea Kalchik. And she states, I was a part of the choir program for all 4 years while I attended South Lyon East High School. I graduated last year, and let me say I never thought I would grow to love choir. Choir has helped me grow as a person and made me realize I should probably only sing loud in my car. Anyway, choir was a big part of my life in high school because it helped me to do better in school, and I've made my lifelong friends from that choir room. We also went to States twice and did excellent both years. We stopped going to States my junior year because it was stressful for us to learn and perfect a third song in 1 month. Plus, it cut into time for preparing for our spring concert, which is one of the most important concerts for choir kids, especially the seniors. With cutting States out, shouldn't that have saved the school some money? Music is so important to kids these days. With all the bad stuff going on, it's an escape for them. The budget shouldn't be cut that much from the choir and band program at all. It is just as important as sports are to this community. Also, Mrs. Hogan is just as essential to the band and choir program as Mr. Meadow, Mr. Mathis, and Mr. Smith are. Without her, who would do the money saving? Who would help set up the nice retirement home performances the choir does? Who would do the slideshow for the spring concert? Who else would be able to help both music programs at the same time? She also helps out in every way she possibly can. Every choir kid and band kid loves Mrs. Hogan, and as she plays a part to both of these programs. Okay, Renee Kruger states, elementary media monitors being cut looks good on paper, but will affect the children. I love being a media monitor at Sayre. I have been involved at the Media Center since 2014 when I started volunteering once a week to help reshelve books. I was lucky enough to be asked to be the media monitor in 2017, when the then monitor moved to another job in the district. It is a dream job for me. I get to combine two things I am passionate about working with, young children and children's literature. The children are always so excited during the kindergarten meet and greets when they see our library and meet me. They can't wait to be able to check out their own library books. Children will tell me they can't wait to hear their library day. It's one of their favorite specials. Do you know what I do each week? I help students get excited about books. I read a story to them that may introduce them to their new favorite story or author. I guide children to select books about their interests. I listen to them share something they are excited about. I provide a place for a brain break in the midst of their busy day. I am a friendly, familiar face in the hallway or around town. I get to know all of the children in the school. This incoming 5th grade class I have known since they began their school career, as I was a kindergarten para for those first few weeks of fall 2015. An elementary media monitor is more than just the numbers on a spreadsheet. We put books in kids' hands and they choose not what is required. We are part of the school family, just like teachers, paras, lunch crew, building engineer, custodians, secretaries, and principal. Please reconsider taking all that away from the children. Thank you for your time. Mrs. Carrie Hill would like to speak about the South Lyon East Band Program as an alumni parent. Ms. Hill, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, I know it's been a long night and I do want to thank you all for your time, but I also feel that I think the board should hear just how important the band program is and has been for South Lyon students. The proposed funding cuts for the music programs within the South Lyon Community School District saddens and infuriates me. I was a band kid. My husband was a band kid. We met in college band, and our daughter is a South Lyon East Band alumni. Lauren is about to enter her senior year at Western Michigan University as a music education major. Without her high school band program at South Lyon East, she would not be the person she is. As you all know, education is a difficult field to enter into these days, and music education is even harder. She actually started her position as the president of the Collegiate State Executive Board for the Michigan Music Educators Association today. She was on a call with her executive board at the same time this board meeting started, preventing her from speaking in the beginning, but I do believe she'll be speaking after me. Ironically, 1 year ago at this time, she participated in Capitol Hill Day in Washington, D.C. She stood on the floor as an advocator and fought for the arts in schools. Removing Mrs. Hogan and additionally marching band staff and leaving Mr. Smith to run the ever-growing band program alone is like removing all but one coach for the football team and expecting them to coach all the positions at one time by themselves. South Lyon Community Schools chose Mr. Smith as High School Teacher of the Year. Does that sound like a program that should be at the top of the pyramid for cuts? Every child deserves a champion, an adult, someone other than a parent who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists they become the best they possibly be. Mr. Smith and Mrs. Hogan were our daughter's champions through high school. The band program provided our daughter and family friendships, memories, and skills that will last a lifetime. In a world where so many people reflect on how awful high school was, she will look back with nothing but wonderful memories because of what the program and leaders of the program did for her. They befriended her and guided her, influenced her, and invested in her. It takes special people to give so much of themselves to light the fires within their students, to raise our children's expectations for themselves and never give up on them, no matter how challenging it might be. It's not in their job description as teachers and administrators to impart their lives to their students, but both of them unselfishly do just that. There are really no words to completely express appreciation for people who have empowered and ignited their child's passion and is helping them achieve their dreams. Mrs. Hogan and Mr. Smith model patience, perseverance, wisdom, and generosity to the best of their ability each and every day in and out of their classroom. A key to growing is to be around people who uplift you, whose presence inspires you, and whose dedication drives you. I also had a daughter from the class of 2019 that was a member of the South Lyon East varsity pom team, so I know the athletics angle in all of this as well. We sat in the South Lyon East football stadium stands every home game from 2013 to 2019, rain, snow, sleet, and sun. Every band member sits in those stands cheering on their football team, win or lose, in all of the weather as well. The last game of my oldest daughter's high school career, the team finally won a football game for the season. Yes, the only one of the season, and those band kids were on that field celebrating their classmates' victory. Ironically, that same season, our daughter's senior year, the band finally reached the number of students the school administration told them they needed to be able to compete. They not only competed and made it to states at Ford Field their first year out, they finished in the top 10 for their class in the state. Each year since, the band has made it back to states, and every year they make it top 10. I cannot adequately express the mark that the South Lyon East High School Band Program has made on Lauren's life and our families. In the hectic world we live in, we must keep everything in perspective and never forget the important things in life. Do what makes you happy, and band makes so many kids happy. Please reconsider your budget cuts and how they will truly affect South Lyon students now and for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Emily Parker, and she states, I have a question for Stacy. From your presentation, you show one elementary teacher being laid off, but on paper it says 6. Can you further clarify how many layoffs are we looking at for elementary staff? Thank you. Okay, next up is Lauren Hill. Are you on the line, Ms. Hill?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
So I understand that my mom, Terry Hill, just previously spoke, but I would like to say a few words about the music programs. My name is Lauren Hill, and I'm a legacy of South Lyon East Band Program. By legacy, I mean someone who has decided to dedicate her life to the community, what this program had to offer her when she was a high school student. I'm in my last year at Western Michigan University studying music education. I was a saxophone player in the marching band, symphonic band, sax quartet, jazz band, and pit orchestra at South Lyon East High School from 2013 to 2017. I was a student when the program doubled in size and became a well-respected competitive marching band program. And I worked closely with Matthew Smith when he first started as a band director at South Lyon East. I know, in fact, I am not the only student from South Lyon that has gone on to bigger musical endeavors, and we would not be where we are without our music programs. It is because of East Band that I had somewhere to grow, to learn, to strive, and to love. It is safe to say that in the eyes of some, these proposed budget cuts will only impact a small portion of the South Lyon population. I'm here to tell you this impacts more people than any of us will ever realize. This impacts students, staff members, and community supporters. I know some may think it is just band and choir, but it's so much more than that. Music is everywhere in our daily lives. You hear it on the radio, social media, live concerts, music streaming apps, movies, TV shows, etc. Music is what gives the world color in the form of sounds. In other words, music gives life a life. Music brings people together, strengthening our ability to make a difference in the world, no matter how small of a difference. That is why all of these members from Southline community are speaking to you today. We have a voice, and we are telling you what we are telling you speaks volumes. Music is the reason some kids wake up in the morning, and others the reason they choose to go to sleep another night. Music is the reason that some kids have a mentor to lean on when their parents cannot support them at home. Music is the reason some kids have an outlet to express themselves because they are not accepted by their peers. Music is the reason why I am speaking before you today. So many of us have lost so much over the past few months, and while something like this may not seem like a big deal, it's a huge deal. This is a fight that should never keep being fought because we deserve to win. For many years, music and arts programs have been the first to be cut, but in reality, those programs are what make up your senses. Imagine not seeing what lies before you in no color at all. Imagine never hearing your favorite song play over the radio, and we sat in silence. As you may think that you are silencing us with this decision, just know that we will not be silenced. It's about time that the supporters of our schools decide to support what matters most to the students. Gerald Ford once said, music education opens doors that help children pass from school into the world around them, a world of work, culture, intellectual activity, and human involvement. The future of our nation depends on providing our children with a complete education that includes music. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Smith. Are you on the line, Mr. Smith?
Hello and good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. So I know it's been a very long meeting. I'm very thankful that we've taken the opportunity to listen to so much of our community and speaking about these cuts. I know it's not difficult. And to go back to my comments at the May 18th meeting, I totally understand how difficult this is for everyone. But to reiterate what I said at the May 18th meeting regarding taking stakeholders' opinions and thoughts into account, I think we're definitely starting to hear that now. Since that May 18th meeting, at no point have myself or Mr. Court been included on a discussion about these budget conversations or the potential cuts. And at this point, we're at a very difficult position, as Ms. Ortel was talking about during the discussion, that we are now at a point where we can't staff our staff for a competitive marching band in the fall. Our current competitive circuit is already moving forward with a fall season in mind. So we can't staff right now with the thought of we don't know where those cuts are coming from and if they're going to cut from our program also. Also to mention that the cuts of the coordinators make it very difficult for the operations of both high schools, band and choir departments to continue operating at the high levels that they do. Now we have to have the difficult conversations with those coordinators, with those staff members that are envisioning a fall with students who are so passionate about them, about their music education, their well-being, and their mental health. It becomes very difficult as directors to take a place at this discussion. So I'm still asking that we have an opportunity at a seat at the table to discuss these budget conversations further with you so that our voice can be heard and how it can impact our operations, the music education, and the well-being of our students and our community so that we can continue the powerful competitive programs, the performances throughout the U.S., our trips, and the impressive winter concerts that both high schools put on that now will be affected by the lack of an auditorium manager, not to mention also the theater program and putting on musicals in the spring that the community looks forward to coming to see. So I hope those that are involved with the budget committee and forming those committees, once again, take an opportunity to relook at those people that should have a seat at the table so we can discuss properly how these budgets will impact every single stakeholder of our district. Thank you.
Thank you. We had an anonymous comment that discussed some of the administrators taking a pay cut. Ms. Stacy Kempsky states, it was mentioned that athletic directors were consulted and asked for their input for the budget cuts. It did not sound like the music directors were asked for their input before their programs were targeted and included in the budget for cuts. Will the music directors now be asked for their input? Brian Sleek states, based on a comment Stacy said that you attempted to speak with the athletic department, you didn't show the same respect to the band programs. Are you going to do this now? And Miss Jacqueline Janowski states, thank you for seeing the value in our exceptional musical programs and for sending the budget back to committee. Let's try to spread the cuts out evenly among all our various programs so that no single program is devastated. And for now, that was our last comment. So with that, we have item 21, correspondence. We have one resignation by Miss Regina Chu and one retirement, Miss Barbara St. Clair. Item 22nd is meeting dates. Our next meeting is June 15th. And item 23 is board comments. Mr. Clark, you're prominent on my screen, so you can go first.
Thank you, President Hanshaw. First off, I'd like to thank all of the public comment speakers this evening. Virtual meetings, they make this a very difficult endeavor, and kudos to those that stuck with it and got your voice heard by the board this evening. This pandemic shutdown has dealt a crippling blow to our state and federal economy. I fear that our budget cuts may have to be deeper than what we propose this evening. We're going to have to keep the focus on keeping all of our stakeholders involved in this process as we move forward. We also need to remember that our primary mission is to educate our children, and we can't forget that as we move through this agonizing process. But I will pledge to be fair and thoughtful in all of my financial votes as we move through this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tell.
Yes, thank you to everybody that made comments. I am glad that there's such a large community input on these financial and budget issues that we're going to be going through. I would encourage everybody, no matter what your particular program or interest in is to keep up on what's happening. Anything you can do to send notes to legislature, state and federal, to try to figure out ways to help out the school community. We already, as a whole, in my opinion, are underfunded. We are one of the lowest funded schools in the state of Michigan, so that makes it even harder for us. While our school population and the community is growing. On that note, I would like to say we have 2 weeks left of school. To all the kids who are working through and enduring online classes, I'm sure they'll be just as excited when school is done. It's warming up. To the teachers that have been doing online classes, you've all been doing a phenomenal job. I know my kids have been very engaged, have multiple hours of work every day. I don't know that the kids appreciate it, but I do, and they are learning new content. With that, have a good rest of the evening.
Mr. Abate.
I would like to thank Ms. Witt and the Finance Committee for the work so far on this budget. It's tough to come out with just some preliminary proposals and to have it, not be finished with those things and to have folks feel like we've put some targets in certain areas when really we're just beginning. There's a tremendous amount of passion there for our music program, which is a great thing. It bodes really well for the future of music here in the district, and for all of those students. We believe in that as well. I know that our committee, our finance folks here in the district, are not looking to disproportionately cut from one area. If there's a way to share this equitably, we certainly will. But I just hope that folks understand especially if what Mr. Clark is saying or feeling about the potential for deeper cuts of what we see. I hope folks understand that there's very little chance that this isn't going to be felt by everybody. And people have passions for their programs all across the board in the district, as well they should, and they should certainly advocate for them. And you guys did a wonderful job tonight in doing that. But know that despite our best efforts, it's likely all of us, across this district are going to feel these cuts. And if we can do them more equitably, we certainly will. And I have every confidence that Ms. Witt and our finance committee will do that. So thank you, everybody, tonight.
Mr. Kennedy.
Sure. You make me follow Mr. Abate again. Because he said a lot of things that I was hoping to be able to say. To our students who spoke and our parents who spoke, we've heard you. We appreciate your comments. I want to thank you for being so well written and so unbelievably well spoken. It speaks to the job that we try to do here for you. At the last meeting, I said, I think, and George commented on it, that I don't know how we're going to do what it is that we do with the kind of cuts that we're going to have to make. And frankly, I still don't know. Ms. Witt, I still doesn't think we quite know. Our finance committee doesn't know exactly how we're going to do that. So if I had anything to say to the folks who spoke today, we've heard you. We are still in the trenches. We still do have work to do, and I assure you that we will intend to do that work. What makes this difficult is we're not cutting the program. We don't want to do that. That's not our goal. However, in cutting the number of positions that are on the slate, perhaps being extracurricular and co-curricular support staff essentially does indeed cripple and decimate and devastate those programs. And I don't think we can let that happen. Somehow we have been underfunded for such a long time, and we've done so well being so underfunded for such a long time. That drastic cut to our support staff, it will hurt, and it hurts across the board. I think we can do better in making it more equitable, as Mr. Bade said, across the board, to do the best that we can with what we are given from the state, which right now isn't a whole lot. But I do believe that we will persevere and do the best that we can with our support, with our administrative support, and with our community support. And that I truly appreciate. And I appreciate the work that all of our teachers do and continue to do when we're faced with such insane, crazy, difficult times. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Who's next?
All right, Mr. Dashner. Are you still talking?
I want to start off by saying thank you to Sarah Jones and Plant Moran, and something tells me your husband might have had a little to do with it too. It's great to see a parent and a business stepping up to help us save a little bit of money. Just fantastic. Again, thanks to everyone that spoke tonight. I especially appreciate it when we hear high school students speak at these meetings. That's pretty impactful to us, and also appreciate the emails we get. I mean, we hear all of your comments and understand that every cut we have to make is a big deal. We get that. We understand that. Obviously, the budget has been pushed back to the finance committee. We'll continue to look at it, but it's a work in process. We're going to pass a budget without knowing what all cuts we're going to have to make. That's just a function of when the funding decisions are going to be made from the state. And we're going to have to make a decision without knowing what our funding is. So everything we do is a guess. If our funding cuts are as much as we expect or worse, there's going to be cuts that hurt, plain and simple, and there's nothing we can do about it. Just the way it is. So As a finance committee, I supported putting the list out of what the cuts are. I think the phrase that was said was rip off the Band-Aid. It was going to be uncomfortable, but everyone's going to wonder if they don't see what's there. So it was probably premature, but at the same token, people are aware of the things that are on the table. Like I said, they're going to hurt. So there's not much we can do about it because it's staff, and that's the only way we do it. So I will stop rambling at that.
Thank you. Mr. Schwegler.
Yeah, as everyone said, thank you for sharing your voices tonight from those that support the band. I was a member through graduation in high school, both of marching and jazz bands. I understand the impact it can have on one person. So I really appreciate you guys sharing. I hope you guys recognize the power that many voices can have in making what's important to you heard, which means you really do need to contact your legislatures. The government has supported many businesses and workers through this crisis, and it seems like they should absolutely make sure that schools are not left behind with support with all the lost revenue. So reach out to your legislators. Mr. Dashner brought it up earlier today. The vast majority of our budget is tied to people, both in salaries and benefits. There is no way to get through a large budget cut without having to impact people that we know and we care for at this district. It's going to hurt. And he's right. We were probably a little premature, but this is kind of what I'm glad that we got out of this. We got to hear early on things that are really important to people in this district to make sure we don't end up in a position in the fall when we finally do come up with a budget that would significantly impact a program we didn't intend to. There's a lot of work to do, and hopefully everyone knows. I hope Stacy doesn't feel like we put her through under the bus with that. She's doing a lot of great hard work in the backgrounds trying to figure out the best way to navigate this. So we'll keep working, and we'll hopefully come out of this as good as we can hope to. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I definitely want to reiterate what everyone has stated. We do appreciate the public comment, and especially when students speak, it does mean a lot. This budget has come about in a matter of a couple of months. Stacy and her team, including the finance committee, has had to try to cut millions of dollars out of our budget in a short period via virtual meetings, and not even understanding what the school day is going to look like. We don't know how much the kids are going to be in school. We don't know if they're going to have to wear masks. We don't know if we have to socially distance. And all of that, I'm sure, is a factor. And so I know they're doing their best, and I appreciate all of their work. And we will pass a budget in June, and it will hurt, but we will get through it. And we will come together and get through it. Final thing I would like to say is I would just like to congratulate all of our seniors. Their last day of school was last Friday, and so not exactly what they expected. But they did get a lovely surprise. Our administrators and teachers at both high schools rode a number of buses all throughout the district and delivered signs, cap and gowns, all the awards and everything, and yearbooks to every senior at their home. And it was a wonderful experience, and I know it was very much appreciated. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So I move to adjourn the meeting. Sorry, I'll support. Either way.
I caught Ms. Ortel, so moved by Ms. Ortel. Who supported?
I'll support that then.
Okay, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or comments about adjourning?
Let Jenny have her glory.
All right, with that, Mr. Bobby, please call the roll.
Yes, I vote yes. Ms. Anshaw.
Yes.
Mr. Dashner.
Yes.
Mr. Schwegler.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Mr. Tum.
Yes.
And Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 after a very long night, but very productive. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.